Get Channel Africa on DSTV Audio Bouquet. Channel 806.
It's 6 o'clock Central African time. A very good morning to you and welcome to Rise and Shine. As we say, wake up with us, Africa. And we bring you all things from the African perspective. Well, for the next 3 hours, it will be news and current affairs from the African perspective. We're broadcasting live from our Johannesburg studios in South Africa. My name is Asanda, Beda. We are on the SABC Plus app on www.channelafrica.co.za, as well as live streaming on YouTube at Channel Africa 1. Happy Friday, my colleague. Your favorite day of the week.
Happy Friday, everybody. Happy Friday. Yeah, it's such a beautiful day of the week. It's just so much anticipation with the weekend. And you look back at a week that's usually quite eventful. So happy Friday, everybody. My name is Peter Ndoro. And this is the first hour of a packed show. And some of the stories that we're looking at, we're going to catch up at some point in the situation in Malawi to find out where we are in terms of the vote counting there. It could be historic. This is what it's pointing to. In the news, big stories playing out. UN investigators have accused South Sudanese authorities of siphoning off billions of dollars from the country's wealth. And in South Africa, good news, the country is set to introduce a new electronic travel authorization visa next month. So it should be easier to get your visa to travel to South Africa by just going online. We'll have more details on those stories coming up after the news as we say good morning to Dwalane Tulongwepe, and that'll be followed by sports headlines with Figile Lingwat.
SABC News. The African perspective.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa is hosting the DRC's President Felix Tshisekedi for a working visit at Mahlamba Ndlovu, the President's official residence in Pretoria. The two leaders will have an opportunity to engage on a variety of issues of mutual interest, with the hope of enhancing a strategic relationship and fostering closer cooperation between the two countries. Bonolo Maribe has more.
President Felix Tshisekedi's trip to South Africa comes amid ongoing efforts by Qatar and the US to find peace in the DRC. The DRC Army and the M23 group are reinforcing military positions and blaming each other for flouting peace accords in an escalation that experts say risks reigniting the simmering conflict. Both countries are members of SADC and aim to cooperate on regional issues, including economic integration and security. South Africa, in support of SADC, the African Union and UN, plays a constructive role in promoting peace and stability in the DRC.
The Umkhonto weSizwe Party's urgent bid to halt the Madlanga Commission has been struck off the roll in the High Court in Pretoria, South Africa. The MK Party wanted the court to declare President Cyril Ramaphosa's decision to place Police Minister Senzo Mchunu on special leave and the appointment of Firoz Kachalia in the interim unlawful. This includes the establishment of the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. Judge Rommel Tolme handed down judgment.
The President's decision has already been implemented. The proverbial horse has indeed bolted. The Madlanga Commission commenced with its work yesterday. Mr. Mchunu was placed on leave of absence, and Acting Minister Kacharia was appointed and has assumed office. In the first applicant's papers, nothing is said that could conceivably reflect negatively on the suitability of Justice Madlanga or the Acting Minister Kacharia to fulfill their obligations in terms of the President's decisions. We therefore conclude that the matter is not urgent.
The South African National Defence Force says 5 soldiers who were arrested near the Limpopo River in Musina on Tuesday will face the consequences of the military justice system if found guilty of contravening the law in court. The 5 soldiers and 2 undocumented foreign nationals appeared yesterday at the Musina Magistrates Court for corruption, possession of illicit cigarettes, unlawful discharge of a firearm, and defeating the ends of justice. Police spokesperson Hlulani Mashaba says the suspects intercepted and stole illicit cigarettes from smugglers. The cigarettes were being smuggled into the country from Zimbabwe and hidden inside a temporary military camp. Malawi is gripped by political tension as citizens await to find out who their next president will be following this week's general elections. While the Electoral Commission said it will not announce any results until everything has been verified, allies of both President Lazarus Chakwera and his main rival, former leader Peter Mutharika, have already claimed victory. Thousands of people queued outside polling stations on Tuesday to vote for a president, MPs and local councillors, keenly hoping to effect change in a country swamped by economic troubles. For any news stories you would like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa News, I'm Cholani Tulo Wepe.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
In a sports headline, Busang Kibina Tsipi takes 400 gold on the great night for Botswana. And South Africa's national netball team takes on New Zealand in the 3 international test matches. I'll be back with these and other stories at the bottom of the hour.
Wake up, Africa. Peter Ndoro and Asanda Beda are here to help you rise and shine. Weekdays, 6 till 9 a.m. Central African Time. Only on Channel Africa.
Let's get to this segment of the show now that we call the Africa Roundup. This comes to you Mondays to Fridays on Rise and Shine after the 6 a.m. news. And our team of researchers, our reporters, as well as editors compile the news that have been taking place that you may have missed out on to make sure you catch up and get to speed. And also as a way of throwing forward to what we can expect to develop in the new day as far as news are concerned. And today we start with the UN investigators having accused South Sudanese authorities of siphoning off billions of dollars from the country's wealth, even as nearly 2/3 of the population face severe hunger. Despite vast oil reserves, a new report suggests that for every 40 barrels of crude the country produces, the public receives the profits from just one.
Corruption is killing South Sudanese. It's not incidental. It's the engine of South Sudan's collapse, hollowing out its economy, gutting institutions, fueling conflict, and condemning its people to hunger and preventable death.
South Africa is set to introduce a new electronic travel authorization visa next month. The country's Minister of Home Affairs, Dr. Leon Schreiber, has announced. Now, the system aims to simplify and speed up visa applications for international travellers. Schreiber made the announcement at the 4th Annual Tourism Leadership Conference, which is currently underway in a town called Rustenburg, northwest of Johannesburg.
And your application will not only be taken online, but the adjudication is also done instantly through technology. So you'll get your visa outcome within a matter of hours, and suddenly we'll be able to unlock massive markets like China, India, Indonesia in the process. The first phase of this will be focused on the G20 with 4 countries, India, China, Indonesia and Mexico. Those are 4 members of the G20 that require visas for South Africa.
Namibian President Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah has underscored the government's goal of creating 500,000 jobs over the next 5 years, highlighting mining as a key sector with strong employment potential. She was speaking during a courtesy visit from a Chamber of Mines delegation to State House.
So we are now setting ourselves that in the next 5 years, we would want to create not less than 500,000 jobs. And we are looking at all sectors of our economy, including the mining. It is nature. Mining is capital intensive. But I believe with value addition, we may create extra jobs. And if we can generate resources from our mining industry, we can feed into other sectors, such as agriculture, that can create jobs.
Well, talking about jobs, sadly in South Africa, some are being lost. Coca-Cola Beverages South Africa is planning to cut over 680 jobs in a major restructuring, citing financial pressures. Now, the company has promised generous severance packages and will close its Bloemfontein and East London plants. Edwin Maboa of the Food and Allied Workers Union has raised concern about the impact it'll have on workers.
Before we can even have our first meeting with the CCMA, the company is going behind our backs and consulting with the employees individually or otherwise, to an extent that they are telling you that the first phase is completed and the second phase. According to the union, there's no first and second phase. The company served us with a notice which was coupled with an application to the CCMA for the facilitation of the process, which is commencing on the 19th of September 2025, this Friday.
Meta has launched its first consumer-ready smart glasses with a built-in display aiming to build on the success of its Ray-Ban line, one of the early hits of the artificial intelligence era.
Boss Mark Zuckerberg presented the new gadget at the firm's annual event for developers in California on Wednesday, though the tech sometimes let him down.
That's too bad. I don't know what happened.
The new gadget is dubbed the Meta Ray-Ban display and will go on sale later this month, priced from $799. It features a small digital display in the right lens for basic tasks such as notifications.
The display is large enough to watch a video or, read a thread of messages. It appears in one eye, it's slightly off-center so it doesn't block your view, and it disappears after a few seconds when it's not in use so it doesn't distract you.
A 14-year-old dancer from a South African town of seasonal laborers has amazed his ballet teachers in New York during a summer scholarship. Solima Matiso's journey to the stage, however, has been anything but easy. Christy Kilburn reports.
The 14-year-old ballet dancer says he hopes his work here will one day get him on an international stage in front of a large audience. It's a big feat for Solima, who's from a town not known for the arts. Zolani, which sits in South Africa's Western Cape, is a township created from the legacy of the country's apartheid system.
I want to make it in life, travel, do my dancing, see the other dancers, perform on big stages.
Solima is one of 50 children enrolled at the local dance school, Dancescape, a place that has produced many professional dancers across South Africa and overseas.
And that's how we come to the end of today's Africa Roundup. We'll do this again on Monday after the 6 a.m. news. And then coming up, we zoom into the Central African region to explore stories there that we need to highlight. We'll be in conversation with one of our resident analysts. Peter will be spearheading that conversation with Aaron Ngambi.
Mornings made better with Peter and Asanda on Rise and Shine. Weekdays, 6 till 9 Central African Time on Channel Africa. Got something to say? Are you passionate about issues that matter? Do you have a voice that deserves to be heard? Well, we've got the perfect platform for you. Call in or drop us a WhatsApp on +27 63 406 9126. And we will call you back so you could have your say and be part of the conversation.
30 years of age. I just turned 30 on the 15th of November. So that's who I am,
It's not just talk. It's your chance to air your views. Share your opinion. Engage with the community that values your perspective. Follow us on our social media. Visit our website at www.channelafrica.co.za and get ready to share your views on Channel Africa, the African perspective. New day, new stories. Start your morning right with Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
Rice, it's time for us to focus our attention on Central Africa. We should have done it earlier in the week, but we're catching up, fortunately, with our regular geopolitical analyst Aaron Ngambi, and tensions are rising in A major political and security flashpoints intensify. Cameroon is heading into presidential elections surrounded by controversy, and the DRC, the government, is at odds with opposition parties, rebel groups, and civil society about peace talks and the role of former President Joseph Kabila. Let's chat now to Aaron Ngambi and try and figure out some of these issues. Aaron, always good to talk to you. Thanks so much indeed for joining us on the program.
Good morning, Peter, and thank you for having me.
So, Cameroon's presidential election is set for October the 12th, but the opposition is deeply divided, including over who will lead any unified challenge. What impact might this disunity have on the prospects for a free and fair contest, or it doesn't really matter, I guess?
Well, this disunity, unfortunately, only speaks to nothing but no change at all, in the sense that this favors the ruling party and the incumbent, who is, of course, senile, and he basically cannot rule this country. He's beyond 90 years old, and it seems like he's not even there. It seems like his campaign has been run by people who want him to continue, people that have been close to him, and people that are basically managing the campaign. And so this disunity among the opposition is really a sad tale, because it favors the incumbent. But at the same time, it also speaks to the usual African politics of selfishness and people struggling to come together on principle, putting their personal ambitions before the country. Because to be honest, it seems like the situation is desperate. And so everyone in the opposition thinks that they have a chance. But they forget that going it alone without coming together actually divides them rather than bringing them together against the incumbent.
All right, so let's chat a little bit about Angola signing a deal to combat illicit drugs with Nigeria. What do you make of this?
What Angola and Nigeria should be doing is signing a trade deal that connects the two oil-rich countries in Africa to better trade relations, to have a free trade agreement, and like these kind of deals or arrangements that they are signing, because they really are of no consequence. I don't think that the issue of narcotics is a big issue between Angola and Nigeria. I think that what needs to be consolidated is the trade issues between the two countries, and that will have an overspill effect to other countries as well. Africa needs more trade among its countries, among ourselves, more than these other sideshow agreements and diplomatic engagements that we usually see.
What about, I guess, what's happening in the Central African Republic? We're seeing 5 UN police officers killed in the country. What's happening there, Aaron?
Yeah, unfortunately, these 5 that were killed seem to have come from the Republic of Congo, Congo Brazzaville, but these are UN peacekeepers, and there was a clash that happened, and unfortunately 5 UN peacekeepers were killed. The Central African Republic is definitely a hostile environment for any kind of security issues. I mean, you will recall that even its own president is heavily guarded by Russian mercenaries. I mean, the presidential guards to the president of the Central African Republic are not from that country. So it speaks to the instability, the insecurity that surrounds this country. And for some years now, it seems like there has been relative peace. There hasn't been a lot of issues in terms of civil war, because the government has opened up to these foreign countries, contracted these foreign countries at a huge cost to try to maintain some sort of peace. but it seems like these clashes that we're seeing the signs of some sort of instability. And remember, this could also be because of the elections. This is an election year in the Central African Republic, and so we might be able to see a lot of either violence or insurgencies going on.
Okay, huge trenches are swallowing up homes in the DRC. Amongst all the other drama it's going through, what are these trenches about?
The DRC seems to be a God-forsaken country. It seems to have issues going on. It's one thing after another. This is an issue of climate change. We are told that these uh, gullies, as they call them, as a result of um, the difficult issues, environmental issues surrounding the Congo, Congo Kinshasa, and we have heard that over 120,000 people have been displaced because of these. Homes have been destroyed and swollen up. And we saw that President Tshisekedi made an effort to visit some of these areas, the sites, and be able to address the people. Unfortunately, he was booed. Unfortunately, he did not receive the kind of reception that he expected, but he did the right thing. He provided leadership, he went to these areas and attempted to talk to the people. But by and large, it seems like this is an environmental issue, and this is an issue of climate change. And we hope that the Congo can take this issue seriously.
Then Equatorial Guinea authorities have reportedly enforced a year-long internet outage in Annobon Island following protests against construction activity. What are the broader consequences of this? I mean, this is sadly something that we see some governments, especially around protests or elections, choosing to silence citizens by shutting down the internet.
I think that the government of Equatorial Guinea is using this saga of, the dispute between this island and a Moroccan construction company as a pretext to silence these people. The truth is that uh, the people of this island for a very long time have attempted to secede from Equatorial Guinea. There have been protests, they've been trying to agitate for some sort of autonomy and to basically break away from the country. And this has, in some instances, there's been clashes with the government in the past. This has been a major issue. And I think that because of this now protest, the people of the island were fed up about this construction company that was involved in all sorts of illicit activities and taking advantage of the people. And when they protested that, the government reaction was not to come to the aid of the people, but rather to punish them by completely cutting off this internet services for a year now. And this is upset. This is completely nothing but censorship. It is one way that the government is trying to take away the people's freedom and rights of free expression and to basically just cut them out from the rest of the world. Because once you do that, once you shut down the internet, like you've said, we saw that in 2021 in Uganda during the elections when President Museveni uh, cut off the internet for a few hours during the elections and actually a little bit after the elections as well. But the people always find a way. The people started using VPN in Uganda. The people always find a way to be able to have access to these basic necessities now. So we hope that the government of Equatorial Guinea can rethink this position.
They voted in Parliament, moving to allow its president to run for unlimited terms. And I guess another familiar story. When you set up a constitution with good intentions, you say, I'm only going to do 2 terms. And when it starts to run out, you say, hang on, I actually would rather stay. Is this yet another ploy to keep the family business going, running the country?
Yeah, and and the problem is that this is a pattern that we've seen over the years in many different countries in Africa. And the argument that these good for nothing politicians make is that no, but this person, and they make it so exclusive to the incumbent as if this is a person that just dropped from heaven and is unique and have these gifted talents that we can't do without, and they need to stay, and we need to remove term limits for their sake and not for the sake of the country or another person that might take over. But they want to change the constitution completely because it does not favor this specific incumbent. I find that to be almost appalling, and it's very disturbing because the signs that we send out, of the signal, the message out to the people is that, well, we have found one perfect person in the country that we can allow to rule us forever, and maybe after this regime, then we can go back to two terms. We can go back to the sense of why we made that constitution in the first place. This is absurd. This is just another way of perpetuating someone's stay in power without legitimacy.
I think that Chad might be, I mean, this Muhammad Idris Deby might be misreading the room a little bit, because we saw what happened in Gabon, where a son takes over from the father. Eventually, the people just say no. Could it be that maybe in Chad we might start to see some resistance because the country is being treated like a family dynasty?
Absolutely. I think that is exactly what might happen. The people eventually get fed up. These removal of term limits and these machinations when it comes to constitution are all done by the people in power. This has nothing to do with consultations from the people or what the people want. And so at some point, the people get fed up and the people rise up. And the other thing to remember about Chad is that Chad has a promising opposition leader, Sukse Masra, who I think that if this incumbent and this president today miscalculates, he might just find that the likes of Sukse Masra and others might rise up and be able to agitate and be able to rally the masses to overthrow them. And he might even end up like other dictators do, run away from the country in exile, in self-imposed exile, and fail to even rule the country indefinitely.
Are there any consequences for this in the region? Is this, I mean, I suppose I can't say it's precedent setting because we've seen it before, but what are the issues for the region if people like Idris Muhammad Itno is allowed to do what he's doing?
The problem with the region itself, if you look at ECOWAS and you look at other Western countries, is that even historically speaking, it's a very troubled history in terms of politics. You talked about family dynasties. We've talked about things like, Cameroon in itself. You have an incumbent that's with the country over 40 years, is 92 years old and trying to come back again for the eighth term. So there's no really saving when it comes to sort of like a mirror of what people should be looking for. I mean, there are very few countries in the region that people can, both in the central region as well as in West Africa, that people can look up to as a model for democracy, as a model for really the rule of law and things like that. So I think that in this context, it is just a matter of internal dynamics within Chad that will bring about a change. I am not overly optimistic. I know that some of these things may take years and years before you see what happened in Gabon, before you see what happened in other parts of the country, I mean, other parts of the continent. We'll talk about Cameroon, we talk about Uganda, for example. These regimes that have gone on for over 40 years now, which is very unfortunate, and we don't even know where it ends. So Chad could be one of those things, and it will be of no consequence in the region. Or Chad may actually take a different turn. It could be the next Gabon. It could be a country that people eventually rise up. But I think that the voices such as Sukse Mazra and other opposition voices in civil society might actually bring about a different Chad sooner rather than later.
And that's where we're going to have to leave it. Always good talking to you, Aaron, and we'll catch up with you next week.
Thank you, Peter. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks so much. That's our regular commentator, Aaron Ngambi, giving us a look at the Central Africa region there. It's time for your news headlines. Here's Jolani Tulongwepe.
Get the news, music, and lifestyle of Africa on Channel Africa, the African perspective. SABC News. Headlines. The African perspective.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning. Making headlines. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa is hosting the DRC President Felix Tshisekedi for a working visit at Mahlamba Ndlovu, the president's official residence in Pretoria. Family and friends of a Kenyan athlete say they're shocked after learning about his capture in Ukraine fighting for Russia. And finally, President Donald Trump has warned that he will remove broadcasting licenses from U.S. television networks that carry content which is hostile to him. I will have details on these and other stories at 7 o'clock.
SABC News. Headlines. The African perspective.
Let's check in now with the world of sports as we say good morning again to Fikile Lingwati.
Sports on Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Good morning, guys. We begin with athletics. In Tokyo, Botswana's 21-year-old Busang Colin Kibina Tsipi won gold in the World 400 meters on Thursday, roaring clear in 43.53 seconds, with compatriots Baya Pondori taking bronze on a memorable night for the African nation. Kibina Tsipi, who scored a season-leading 43.61 seconds in the semi-finals on Tuesday, ran a brilliantly judged race as others went out hard and came off the final bend strongly, driving through the rain for a dominant victory. Jarim Richards of Trinidad and Tobago took the in record 43.72 seconds, with Ndoro third in 44.20 seconds. Sprinter Fred Kerley has become the first track athlete and American male to join the controversial Enhanced Games. The controversial event, scheduled to take place for the first time in 2026, allows athletes to take banned performance-enhancing drugs under medical supervision. Kerley, who claimed bronze in the 100 meters at the Paris Olympics, has been provisionally suspended for an alleged anti-doping whereabouts violation and therefore not competing in the ongoing World Athletics Championships in Tokyo. A 30-year-old could face a 2-year ban, but posted on social media from platform X that he will contest the allegations. On to cricket news. South Africa's national netball team, rather its netball, are set to face off against the Silver Ferns of New Zealand in the 2025 Taimi Jennison Trophy in a 3 international test match. South Africa visits New Zealand thriller. The last time the two nations clashed was during the 2023 Netball World Cup. And coach Jenny van Dijk has selected a 15-player team for this series and has confirmed that the team is ready to take to the court.
The camp is that of a highly determined camp. We're on a mission. I really think that this is such an important priority for them. The majority of this team has never even played against a New Zealand side at all. And I think, this is something that's just so important for them in really assisting with their own development.
Let's end with rugby. In a significant boost for women's rugby development, South African Rugby has confirmed a brand new club competition for women with Betway as the title sponsor, while the Under-20 women's tournament will see more participating teams than ever before converge on Johannesburg next month. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport with me, Figile Lungwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Hi there. Do you want to elevate your business and give it a voice in South Africa and Africa as a whole? Well, in that case, let Channel Africa make this a possibility. Channel Africa is willing to advertise your business for as little as 30,000 rands or $1,719.18. To get access to these great rates, send all requests to mokoenata@SABC. That's MOKOENATA@SABC. Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Let's take a first look at what's been happening in the world of business, economics, and at the Business News Desk this morning, we say good morning to Nosipo Zuma.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning. In your business news this hour, South Africa's Reserve Bank's Monetary Policy Committee has decided to keep the repo rate unchanged at 7% and the prime lending rate also changed at 10.5%. Now, despite the current decline in inflation and inflation expectations, the bank expects inflation to rise in the next few months and a peak at 4%. This is mainly due to the anticipated high electricity prices following NERSA's latest price correction. Addressing a press briefing in Pretoria, Reserve Bank Governor Lesitja Kganyago said the economic growth for the year has been revised up from 0.9% to 1.2%.
Against this backdrop, the MPC decided to keep the policy rate unchanged at 7%. 4 members preferred to keep rates on hold, while 2 favored a cut of 25 basis points. Since September last year, we have reduced rates by 125 basis points, and we want to see how this is affecting the economy, how expectations evolve, and how inflation risks are resolved.
South Africa's Minister of Home Affairs, Dr. Leon Schreiber, has announced that the new electronic travel authorization visa will come into effect next month. Schreiber says the new system will speed up the process of applying for visas. He was among government dignitaries who attended the 4th Annual Tourism Leadership Conference held in Rustenburg in the Northwest Province. Now, according to Statistics South Africa, the tourism sector contributes 8.8% to the country's GDP, with job opportunities of 1.68 million. Schreiber says this is about to change.
If you're a tourist, no more forms, no more traveling to a South African mission, no more waiting weeks for an outcome. All of those things will now go online, and your application will not only be taken online, but the adjudication is also done instantly through technology. So you'll be able to get your visa outcome within a matter of hours, and suddenly we'll be able to unlock massive markets like China, India, Indonesia in the process. The first phase of this will be focused on the G20 with 4 countries, India, China, Indonesia and Mexico. Those are 4 members of the G20 that require visas for South Africa.
Minister of Agriculture John Steenhuisen says South Africa needs to work on developing serious interventions as part of reducing the growing increase of food insecurity in the country. The minister was delivering a keynote address at the official opening of the G20 Agriculture Working Group and Ministerial meeting in Cape Town. Steenhuisen told the delegates that the resolution of the discussion emerging out of the meeting will form part of the handing over of the agriculture presidency to the United States of America.
And so whilst we are regarded as a food secure country, we have large pockets of the country that remain food insecure. The Eastern Cape, Northern Cape, Northwest Province are some of the hardest hit. And obviously what this now allows us to do using this baseline report is to target interventions. Rather than just a shotgun approach, we're able to zone into those districts and start trying to assist with things like food gardens, food banks, access to food, teaching people there how to grow food and the like.
U.S. President Donald Trump and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer have signed what they say is a groundbreaking technology deal between the two countries. Sama said he would help create thousands of jobs. Trump described the deal as an indication that the ties between Britain and the U.S. were closer than ever.
I think it's an unbreakable bond we have, regardless of what we're doing today. I think it's unbreakable. But this is very big, and I want to thank all of the incredibly talented business leaders, the best in the world, biggest in the world, here this afternoon for investing in the Anglo-American Alliance, and you personify an important part of the unique national bond and really a world bond. What you've done is incredible. Our two countries do a great deal of business together, $340 billion last year.
Your financial indicators: $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,000 naira 490, and Botswana is 13 bula 11. Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shilling 40, and in Zambia is 23 kwacha 40. The BRICS countries: $1 in Brazil is trading at 5 ruble 30. Russia is 83 rubles 44. India is 87 rupees 81. China is 7 yuan 10, and in South Africa $1 is trading at 17 rand 36. $1 is trading at 73 pence to the British pound and 84 to the euro. Looking at commodities, gold is trading at $3,646 and platinum at $1,384 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil is at $67.40 a barrel. Now, for any business news stories you would like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I'm Nosipo Suma.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Start your day right with Channel Africa Breakfast.
That smells delicious.
Live, 5 days a week. G20 in Africa, exclusive to Channel Africa.
Time for our G20 fact. Did you know G20 members include the world's major economies, representing 85% of global GDP, 75% of international trade, and 2/3 of the world's population? That's our G20 fact for this Friday.
G20 in Africa, exclusive to Channel Africa, championing Africa through solidarity, equality, and sustainability. Heritage Month is a time to remember where we come from and celebrate where we are going. Channel Africa. Catch us on DSTV channel 802.
Darubini ya Afrika na I am Henry Shakif.
Hifadhi kubwa ya dhahabu, madini adimu na madini ya msingi yameweza kugunduliwa katika wilaya ya Luamo na eneo pana la Karamoja. Hii taarifa ikoje?
Ni kweli ni kwamba uchunguzi ulifanywa kwa muda wa miaka 5 na ugunduzi ni kwamba umeweza kupelekea nchi kupata ufanisi mkubwa hasa katika utajiri wa madini hapa nchini Uganda.
Tumekuwa tuna madini katika bara la Afrika, lakini yamekuwa madini haya hayatunufaishi au kutusaidia kwa namna moja ama nyingine, na tumeendelea kuwa maskini. Unadhani nini kifanyike?
Kubwa katika yote ni kwamba serikali inatakiwa kutoa mkakati mzuri utakaoweza kuwanufaisha kwanza raia wake.
Darubini ya Afrika kila Jumatatu hadi Ijumaa kuanzia saa 11 kamili hadi saa 12 kamili jioni majira ya Afrika ya Kati.
Your morning companion with the stories that matter. This is Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
Coca-Cola Beverages in South Africa is undergoing a restructuring process that could see over 680 jobs cut. In a document seen by the SABC News, the company cites financial constraints as the primary reason for this decision and is committed to supporting affected employees with a generous separation package. As part of the plan, the beverages giant intends to close its plants in both Bloemfontein and East London. However, the Food and Allied Workers Union, FAWU, has vowed to challenge the looming retrenchments, accusing the employer of going behind its back in an attempt to negotiate directly with workers. Diabo Seto reports.
FAO has confirmed receiving a notice of intention from Coca-Cola Beverages South Africa to retrench over 600 workers. The union's Deputy General Secretary, Edwin Mabua, says the notice was coupled with an application to the CCMA for the facilitation of Section 189 process. He says FAO is disappointed with how the company is handling the retrenchments.
Before we can even have our first meeting with the CCMA, the company is going behind our backs and consulting with the employees individually or otherwise to an extent that they are telling you that the first phase is completed and the second phase. According to the union, there's no first and second phase. The company served us with a notice which was coupled with an application to the CCMA for the facilitation of the process, which is commencing on the 19th of September 2025, this Friday.
According to documents seen by SABC News, the company is proposing to offer voluntary severance packages to affected employees, saying it is an alternative to forced separation.
Section 189 is a legal process. So whatever the company is doing now is illegal, becomes illegal, because Section 189 says you consult with the union, which is in majority in the establishment. It does not give you leeway to consult with individual workers.
Mabua questions the reasons that the company is retrenching 600 workers, as it does not plead poverty, but mainly to realign the business. The majority of those affected are cleaners, which the company says is not its core business.
We're going to try and save as much workers as we can. Remember, cleaning is a service that you still need to provide when you are producing food. So number one will be to try and speak to the company to move those workers to a cleaning service on a Section 197 process, not on a retrenchment process. Now, number two is that we have got a problem across with the companies that were involved in merging transactions. As a result, we have invited the Department of Competition, Trade and Industry to a meeting to discuss these measures holistically. You can remember that in 2016 or 15, the same Coca-Cola was involved in a merger. Now, in 2019, more than 200 workers were retrenched. Fast forward from 2019 to today is 2025, we are going to lose more than 600 workers. Same happens in SAB, where there was a merger. Same happens in Heineken, where there was a merger. Now, we're starting to have a problem with these local companies being sold to international or foreign investors, because they are here for profit and they've got nothing for the livelihoods of the citizens of this country.
Both the union and the company will be meeting on Friday with the CCMA on the way forward. SABC News has reached out to Coca-Cola Beverages South Africa, and the company had not responded at the time of broadcast. Diabosito, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Wake up to the essence of the continent. Rise and shine on Channel Africa.
A new study on
The rhythm of Africa.
A new study on odontometric measurements may provide a solution to directly address the challenges of identification during mass disasters or cases involving severely decomposed remains. The new innovative method, where teeth are harnessed for their durability to estimate the height of deceased individuals, offers a valuable new tool for forensic investigators, advancing not only scientific practice in South Africa, but also offering a model with relevance across sub-Saharan Africa, where resource constraints often limit access to conventional forensic technologies. This groundbreaking research, undertaken by postgraduate researcher Dr. Krishka Ramchuran at the University of the Western Cape in South Africa, highlights both scientific advancement and deep human mission of forensic odontology. Dr. Ramchuran, a master's student in forensic odontology at the dental faculty at the University of the Western Cape, joins us now. Dr. Ramchuran, how are you this morning?
Good morning. I'm well, thanks. How are you?
I'm good, thank you very much, and thanks for making time for us. Firstly, take us through forensic odontology. What is it and what does it entail?
So, forensic odontology is the study of teeth and dental structures to help identify human remains. Teeth, as you know, are among the most durable parts of the body. So, even in cases where the body is badly decomposed or damaged, they can provide vital clues. This makes forensic odontology an important tool in criminal investigations, mass disasters, and situations where traditional identification methods are not possible. Essentially, it's science that helps give identity to the unknown and brings answers to families and the justice system.
Why are teeth the most reliable way of identifying bodies? What about teeth biologically make them that way?
So it's not the traditional identification methods, but teeth are, like I said, are the most durable substance in the body, and they withstand high temperatures. Um, they are still available in decomposed or fragmented remains, and obviously, the mouth varies from person to person, so almost like a fingerprint, and that's what makes it so unique to each person.
Right. What motivated you or inspired you to conduct this research or this study, and what key aspects does it investigate?
So I think the motivation behind it is that forensic odontology is not just about teeth. It is about giving identity to the unknown, truths to the courts, and closure to families. As a master's student, I see each case as an opportunity to bridge science with humanity. And that was my motivation for going ahead with the course.
What did the research actually look at, and what methodology was used?
So my research, the study was about seeing if there is a connection between tooth measurements and estimating the height of an individual. So what we did was use various measurements, for example, like canine to canine, premolar to premolar, and molar to molar widths, and then using statistical analysis and regression models, we found a connection between the estimation of a person's height and those tooth measurements. They are modest correlations, but they are there. And we found that for this specific population, the molar to molar widths had the best outcomes.
So, what are the key findings of your study, Dr. Ramcharan?
So, what we found was that there is a connection between the data and stature or estimating an individual's height. Like I said, for this sample, the mandibular molar to molar width was the best. And then there were also moderate correlations between the other lower jaw measurements. And the upper jaw showed weaker correlations. But yes, we're saying that it can be used as a tool to help identification. So not alone, but in conjunction with other identification methods.
All right. So, in terms of this particular technology or identification tool forensically, would there need to have been information in file somewhere captured for you to be able to match who this body would belong to, as in the case of fingerprints, because with fingerprints there needs to be some information of the individual stored somewhere.
Yes, so we often face challenges that dental records are either incomplete or not available at all, which makes identification somewhat difficult. My findings show that even without dental records, the physical structure of teeth themselves can provide information, like helping estimate height. This gives forensic pathologists another layer of evidence to work with when trying to build a biological profile for an unidentified person. So it wouldn't replace dental records, but it can be a vital support tool in closing cases.
So currently, what are some of the limitations faced in South Africa in applying odontometric methods for forensic identification?
A big limitation is local reference data sets and population specificity. So, population specific research is vital in forensic science because human biology isn't one size fits all. Different populations have unique physical characteristics shaped by genetics, environment, diet, and lifestyle. If we apply formulas or data developed from another population, say European or North America, to South Africans, the result may be inaccurate. Um, in my study, I studied the Western Cape population specifically. And by doing this, we create reference data that reflects our own diversity, making forensic identification more accurate and reliable in local investigations.
So what does this then, as far as it adds to conventional forensic technologies, what does it mean, this new technology or tool, for craniofacial biology, pathology, and even radiology?
So, as we know that if we compare to traditional methods, long bone analysis, especially using the femur, is still considered the gold standard for estimating height because the correlation is very strong. Dental measurements, on the other hand, as I said, show a modest but meaningful correlation. Teeth don't give the same level of precision, but their real value is in cases where long bones simply aren't available, like in mass disasters, fires, or when remains are severely decomposed. In those situations, the dental measurements can provide critical supporting evidence to help narrow down an identity.
Can it be used for identifying bodies from cold cases? How far back can it track those necessary details of the deceased?
Well, yes, because teeth are durable, but of course, more research has to be done in that aspect. It was not applied in the specific sample that the current research that I conducted was.
Right, Dr. Ramchuran, we thank you so much for your time and well done for all the work you're doing for science.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure. Dr. Krishka Ramchuran from the University of the Western Cape in South Africa, having this scientific development that she's explained to us now. She's a master's student in forensic odontology at the dental faculty at that university in the Western Cape. She's come up with this new study to add to odontometric measurements, which may provide solutions to the identification of decomposed remains of bodies, and this adds to forensic investigations.
Start your day right with Channel Africa Breakfast.
That smells delicious.
Live, 5 days a week.
It's 7 o'clock and good morning and welcome to Rise and Shine. This is Channel Africa from the African perspective. We come to you live through www.channelafrica.co.za. That's our website. Through our YouTube channel where we're live streaming. At Channel Africa 1 is the handle there. And you can also find us on the SABC Plus app if you want to listen via your mobile phones. My name is Asanda, Beda.
And I'm Peter Ndoro. Thanks indeed for joining us for the second hour. And we're looking at a number of stories. So we're going to go to West Africa, where President Bola Tinubu has lifted a state of emergency in Rivers State. And also, we're hearing that the DRC has recorded its first, battling its first outbreak of Ebola in 3 years. So we'll get on top of that story for you this hour. That's not great news at all for the DRC. All right, let's begin though with news. And at the news desk this morning, Joalani Tulo Mwepe.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa is hosting the DRC President Felix Tshisekedi for a working visit at Mahlamba Ndlovu, the president's official residence in Pretoria. The two leaders will have an opportunity to engage on a variety of issues of mutual interest, with the hope of enhancing a strategic relationship and fostering closer cooperation between the two countries. Bonolo Maribe has the story.
President Felix Tshisekedi's trip to South Africa comes amid ongoing efforts by Qatar and the US to find peace in the DRC. The DRC Army and the M23 group are reinforcing military positions and blaming each other for flouting peace accords in an escalation that experts say risks reigniting the simmering conflict. Both countries are members of SADC and aim to cooperate on regional issues, including economic integration and security. South Africa, in support of SADC, the African Union and UN, plays a constructive role in promoting peace and stability in the DRC.
Family and friends of a Kenyan athlete say they're shocked after learning about his capture in Ukraine fighting for Russia. In a video released by Ukraine, Evan Skibbett claims he was tricked into joining the war while he was visiting St. Petersburg. He says his passport and phone were taken and he was made to sign documents in Russian, not realizing that he was enlisting as a soldier. Speaking to the BBC, his brother Isaac Masai appeals to the Kenyan government for help.
We are highly and very much shocked to have received such information concerning our brother, whom we know and hope that Evans has never been involved in such cases. We are pleading with the government of Kenya to intervene.
South Africa's former Minister of Social Development, Lindiwe Zulu, has urged the Malawi Electoral Commission, or MEC, to improve conditions for voters in future elections. Zulu spoke to Channel Africa in the capital Lilongwe, where she's observing Malawi's September 16 general elections with the African Centre for Governance Electoral Observer Mission. She said many voters, including mothers with infants and the elderly, were forced to stand in long queues under difficult circumstances. She said these concerns will be included in the observer's final report aimed at strengthening Malawi's electoral process going forward.
Also, what they will have to look at is really the conditions. Some women are coming here, they have very, very tiny babies, and they have to stand in the queue for a very long time. You have elderly who are being assisted even in walking, and they have to stand in the queues for a very, very long time.
The South African National Defence Force says 5 soldiers who were arrested near the Limpopo River in Musina on Tuesday will face the consequences of the military justice system if found guilty of contravening the law in court. The 5 soldiers and 2 undocumented foreign nationals appeared yesterday at the Musina Magistrates Court for corruption, possession of illicit cigarettes, unlawful discharge of a firearm and defeating the ends of justice. Police spokesperson Hlulani Mashaba says the suspects intercepted and stole illicit cigarettes from the smugglers. The cigarettes were being smuggled into the country from Zimbabwe and hidden inside a temporary military camp. President Donald Trump has warned that he will remove broadcasting licenses from U.S. television networks that carry content which is hostile to him. He was speaking after ABC indefinitely suspended Jimmy Kimmel's late-night show over comments he made over the murder of the right-wing influencer Charlie Kirk. The show was taken off air after the broadcasting regulator, the Federal Communications Commission, threatened to take action over the comments that the comedian made on Monday. Kimmel suggested that Kirk's killing was aligned to Trump's MAGA movement. For any news stories you would like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa News, I'm Cholani Tulongwepe.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
In our sports headline, FIFA opens the case against SAFA over Teboho Mokoena eligibility. Proteas women Beda says they are all on the same page ahead of the second ODI against Pakistan. I'll be back with these and other stories at the bottom of the hour.
Start your day informed, inspired, and entertained. Asanda and Peter bring you Rise and Shine. Weekdays, 6 till 9 a.m. Central African Time.
The Madlanga Commission of Inquiry taking place in South Africa has been told that Member of Parliament Fidel Adams abused classified intelligence information and used his influence with the police minister to interfere in policing. Another Member of Parliament was accused of not keeping her mouth shut about sensitive information. While testimony also revealed how tender tycoon Vusimuzi Kat Matlala continued to operate from inside prison with the help of corrupt officials, business associates, and direct links to senior government leaders. Dimakatso Leshoro has the details.
On day 2 of his testimony at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry into Political Interference and Corruption in the Criminal Justice System, currently sitting in Pretoria, KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi accused 2 members of parliament of breaking the law. He testified that Fidel Adams, leader of the National Coloured Congress, had unauthorized access to sensitive intelligence information he shouldn't have.
That is expectation that one has towards a lawmaker such as Mr. Fidel Adams, who is currently serving in parliament. Because this classified information we are referring to here, it's involving personal information of individuals when the crime intelligence is conducting the vetting process for security clearance for individuals. It's a very sensitive information because it digs deeper to your personal information, your relatives, your criminal records, and everything that the state wants to test in order to confirm whether you qualify to be given a security clearance certificate or not.
Instead, Adams, who is not a member of this committee, used the information to open police cases in Cape Town and Johannesburg.
But the biggest problem on this is the fact that the complainant himself does not avail himself when he's contacted by the people who are now investigating his complaint. He does not avail himself to be engaged in order to form the basis of his complaint in this matter.
2 days later, Adams wrote to Police Minister Senzo Mchunu accusing police of interfering in investigations. The minister's office immediately pushed the matter up the chain, but Adams failed to cooperate with investigations, but instead appealed to a body within the NPA to investigate the case, resulting in the arrest of members of the Crime Intelligence Unit, including its head, General Dumisani Khumalo, on allegations of corruption. Evidence leader advocate Mahlapi Sello SC elaborates.
The use of that same information to abuse his seeming influence on the police structures at the highest echelons, that will then lead to, quote-unquote, triggering a process through the Minister of Police to take certain steps that the general believes it's abuse of office and it interferes with the workings of the police.
Another member of parliament flagged by Mkhwanazi is Diane Collar Barnard, a long-standing member of the Democratic Alliance. She is part of the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence and that of the police. Mkhwanazi says she has abused her privileged position as a member of these committees.
What we see here is a person who has a legal obligation to keep the mouth shut and go to the Joint Standing Committee and present and ventilate on this and hold the Divisional Commission accountable. But she does not use that platform. She goes publicly and discloses this. The risk of these commissioners is that it forces the members that are within crime intelligence in the public space to defend themselves by divulging all the secrets of the states that they are aware of.
While this unfolded, Mkhwanazi's testimony revealed that Vusimuzi Ket Matlala was discovered with a cell phone inside prison, smuggled in by correctional officials. He says that on the phone were messages showing how Matlala coordinated with businessmen to protect lucrative police contracts. In one exchange, he asked Northwest businessman Suleiman Karim to use his proximity to the minister to stop the cancellation of a $20 million contract. Karim allegedly agreed to intercede because of his relationship with the minister. Evidence also showed Matlala in constant contact with his business partner Mike van Wyk and strategizing about media leaks designed to damage senior police officers' reputation. In one chilling message, Matlala boasted that efforts to discredit top management would pave the way for his ally to become the next national commissioner. The commission also heard that Matlala even discussed the filling of a senior post at the Directorate for Priority Crime Investigations, known as the DPCI, the Hawks. Before interviews were held, he told an associate that the job had already been promised to a particular candidate.
In this conversation, when Mr. Rafati sends Matlala this advert, Mr. Matlala responded to the advert, and his response was, and I quote, "They gave it to Gerald Spear already." So this was on advertisement, and the advertisement is sent by Mr. Rafati to Matlala, and Matlala's response to Mr. Rafati is that they gave it to Gerald Spear already. We know that the filling of the vacancies of DPCI head, it's a responsibility of the Minister of Police. So perhaps Mr. Matlala knew something we did not know. And for this name to be published by people who are currently in custody, it made us to realize the extent of the influence that these people who are investigating have over either the executive and the top structure of the South African Police Service.
For Channel Africa News, I'm Timakatso Leshoro in Pretoria.
Former South African Minister for Social Development Lindiwe Zulu, who is a part of the observer mission in Malawi's September 16 general elections with the African Centre for Governance, says that the vote has so far been peaceful and well managed. Speaking in Malawi's capital, Lilongwe, Zulu highlighted the hopes of ordinary Malawians, many of whom are calling for leadership that prioritizes basic needs such as health, education and improved living conditions. Zulu stressed that Africans deserve credible, transparent elections that put people's needs first. Channel Africa reporter Michael Mbewe spoke with the former South African Cabinet Minister Lindiwe Zulu.
The biggest issue for the people here is their conditions and their livelihoods. We went to the township, if I may call it that. The conditions are not good at all. But the people still have hope, and they still believe that the leadership that they will choose will focus on their needs. The people we met spoke about their needs, simple basic needs, issues of schooling, issues of health, issues of conditions under which they live. And what I liked about the communities we went to, we found people who were saying we want to do things for ourselves. All we are asking for is for our government to help create a conducive environment for us so that our children can go to school, so that our children can have uniforms, so that the diseases that some of the children have can be addressed, because they were complaining about the fact that there are no medicines. And even if they go to the clinic, there is no medicine at the clinic. So they are hoping that the leadership that will be voted here will be a leadership that will not focus on itself, but focus on them. Those were their words. They want leadership that will not focus on themselves, but they will focus on them as the people and their needs.
I think there's a lot to learn here. Leading to these elections, there were fears that we will see violence, bloodshed all over. So far, as you have alluded in your first statement, that it's been peaceful. Elaborate that more, because it's more like when we came here on Saturday, you can't feel that the elections.
Well, Africa needs better, to be honest. Africans deserve better. Africans deserve to be in an environment that is conducive for them to make the choices, and governments must then make sure that the systems that enable people to do so are in place. People want to have confidence in that when they cast their vote will be protected until the end. So that by the time the results are being declared, people themselves must feel, yes, we see the results, this is what we voted for. So I think that the entire African continent actually needs to do everything it can to make sure that it has systems that make life easy. Because again, we can say there is peace, there is no violence, there's no nothing. But behind that, we must also look at how long the people have to be in the queue, how long the elderly, women and men have to be standing in the queue, how long will the mothers who are carrying children on their backs must stand in the queue in a scorching sun. So our systems must consider that and make sure that when people wake up in the morning to come to vote, they must not be in the queue the entire day. The other thing that I think is very important is the voter education, because if voter education is done way before, then the explanation is less. So one person spends less time being educated on the line. The person coming here must already have been educated. So the explanation that is here should just be very short explanation.
Your overall impression on how the Malawi Electoral Commission has, handled so far these elections, besides those, shortcomings that we have discussed about, not having a tent, or maybe we see buildings here that could have been converted into, voting stations, like we do in South Africa, and also done elections in Rwanda where they converted schools into polling stations. People were queuing, but voting
they were sitting
inside.
Nicely.
Yes.
Now, look, I think that the Malawi Electoral Commission has done a good job. The first thing that I noticed was the communication, the consistent communication that they have been doing, because communication gives people confidence that you know what you are doing, and you are letting the people know exactly what you are doing. That's the first thing. The second thing is that getting to polling stations and finding that the material is at the polling station, for me, is very, very important. But also organizing the people in the queues, how the people have to stand according to alphabetical order and all that. That means MAC has really done its best to make sure that it's easier for people. Of course, I haven't gone to many polling stations. We have our own also who are deployed in different areas. We're not the only team that is here. Others are deployed in the entire country. People are deployed. We haven't received anything negative that is saying they came to a voting station, the material wasn't there, the voting station didn't take place on time. We haven't seen that yet. So it's step by step. I think that MEC has done a good job.
And what about foul play, like third-party elements trying to disrupt, or maybe ballot boxes?
We haven't experienced that at all. From the very first polling station that we went to, I think the very first polling station, there was just a little bit of a mistake of making people queue alphabetically like we found here. So people got a little bit agitated by the fact that they came earlier and they were not given the information. But once the information was given, then people were able to fall into the lines properly, which means in future, MEC must make sure that right at the beginning, when people are coming to queue, they must be able to tell them that you queue according to alphabetical order, because some people came earlier, some people came later, and that agitates people.
That's the voice of South African politician Lindiwe Zulu, who is former Minister of Social Development, speaking to Channel Africa's Michael Mbewe.
Mornings made better with Peter and Asanda. on Rise and Shine. Weekdays, 6 till 9 Central African Time on Channel Africa.
zochitika ndi madaphiri kamlondola wa zochitika pena paliponse.
mabhizinesi osiyanasiyana mdziko la south africa ayamba kukhoma msonkho wa 30% akamagulitsa katundu wawo ku dziko la united states of america. ndipo pano tili ndi katswiri wa zachuma mu dziko la malawi dr betha chikadza. boma la south africa masiku apitawo linanena kuti ngati america akani kutsitsa msonkhowu, bomalo lipeza misika ina. mungatifotokozere kuti ndizotheka south africa kupeza misika yomwe ingabweretse ndalama pafupifupi 15 billion US dollars zomwe imapezeka ku misika ya ku america.
tinene kuti izizi zitha kuchitika koma sizingachitike mwa pompopompo chifukwa tikaonetsetsa izi zinthu zokuti inali msika wa dziko la america noni msika wakukhazikika umene dziko la south africa linali litazolowera kale. tsono kuti tingonena kuti dziko la south africa lipezanso msika mwina mwasangasanga kuti lizitumiza katundu wake, mwina sizingachitike chifukwa chokuti tikunena apa pa 15 billion dollars ndi ndalama zambiri ndithu.
zochitika ndi madaphiri lolemba mpaka lachisanu pa nthawi ya 7 koloko kufikira 8 koloko madzulo pa Channel Africa.
From Cape to Cairo, Dakar to Dar es Salaam, Rise and Shine with Peter Ndoro and Asanda Beda on Channel Africa.
Africa's economic landscape is evolving and businesses are having to adapt fast. The latest Africa Risk Reward Index, now in its 10th edition, tracks 24 African markets and highlights a continent of contrasts. Reform-minded economies are pulling ahead, while some of the region's anchor markets face persistent challenges. The report also explores emerging trends from industrial policy and regional corridors to the rise of local capital that are shaping how companies invest and operate across Africa. Joining us now to unpack these findings is Sean Duthie, Director at Global Risk Consultancy Control Risks, who is based here in South Africa. Sean, good morning and thank you for making time for us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So the 10th edition of the Africa Risk Reward Index is out, looking at the continent as a whole. What are the key opportunities as well as risks it highlights?
Well, as you said, this is Control Risk's 10th edition of the Africa Risk Reward Index. And our main message is that, especially as seen over the past editions, that Africa is not characterized by sweeping continental transformation, but incremental gains and strategic adaptation by individual countries. So for investors, I think country selection and local nuance is quite critical rather than focus on Africa as a whole. But if we are looking at it as a whole, there is a real push by African countries for greater autonomy in the global economy, which is opening up opportunities across infrastructure, manufacturing, and finance. So the companies that work with African governments as partners and collaborate in these sectors are the companies who I think are going to do best and take advantage of these opportunities. Risk-wise, particularly in the extractive sector, resource nationalism is on the rise. Our report found that there were at least 17 countries working to create or review domestic value chains in mining, and many are reviewing the local content rules, such as in Namibia and Tanzania. So I think for a lot of investors looking to go in, this is becoming a bigger risk for them.
So 24 African markets were tracked and highlighted. Which were some of these countries and what made them significant to give a better overview of this topic? You mentioned Namibia.
Yeah, well, Namibia has been one of the improved, but the most improved have actually been Angola, Cote d'Ivoire, Zambia, and Morocco. So these are mid-sized economies that have really prioritized pro-business reforms in the recent years. Also, other ones that improved were, and they're a little bit different, but were Ethiopia, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Zimbabwe, much higher risk still due to governance issues and conflict, but there is growing economic potential. As far as underperformers, unfortunately, South Africa was one of them. Nigeria and Egypt as well. These are the largest economies in the continent, but they will all be set by macroeconomic and governance challenges, which constrain the potential. Other underperformers were Kenya, Senegal, and Botswana. A lot of economic potential, but unfortunately, they were dented by policy instability and, in Botswana, external factors.
The index points to a story of divergence. Can you give examples and explain what this means for investors?
I mean, I think for divergence, it's about looking at different parts of the continent and not treating having an Africa policy. But when you're looking at where to invest, looking at different countries and what is the opportunities and risks in each of those countries.
The ARRI suggests Africa rewards companies that build resilient resilience regionally integrated models. What does this look like in practice for businesses across multiple markets?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that type of strategy for a company and for an investor really understands local policy and regulatory environments, but thinks of the markets and end consumers from a regional perspective. So we've seen a lot of South African retailers who are doing this in response to the global trade and tariff pressures. They're operating in individual countries across the continent, but sourcing products and people from everywhere, but still ultimately viewing the opportunity at a very regional level. And I think that's a strategy that businesses will need to take going into the continent.
Industrial policy and corridor initiatives are reshaping African markets while local capital is rising. How should companies factor these trends into their operations and strategies?
Well, I mean, all of these are positives for companies operating in Africa and should be taken advantage of to spur growth. I think regional demand is going to hopefully rise when the African Continental Free Trade Area comes into greater in effect. And I think South Africa really is pivoting to focus much more on these regional trade corridors rather than looking too much externally because of the trade issues that are happening. There's also been a real surge in different types of financing, which we cover in the report as well, which I think will help companies take advantage of all these positives and not rely on other countries. So if you look, for example, Ethiopia finance its the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam all through diaspora funds and local taxes. Pension schemes as well also going across the continent. And I think a lot of companies will be able to take advantage of these policy changes, these corridor projects, the local capital to help fund their growth across the continent.
So based on these ARRI findings, what would you say is the single most important strategy for companies looking to succeed across Africa?
Well, it's a good question. I'd be tempted to say that the single most important strategy would be to come to control risks, and we can help you. But I would think for especially smaller companies, especially those operating in South Africa, is understanding the nuance of each country. You can't have one grand Africa strategy and just use that in South Africa and Botswana, Kenya, Nigeria. You really have to understand the markets. You have to understand the policy, the regulations, and how everything works there. And I think same in South Africa, actually. And you can't take what works in Gauteng and put it in the Western Cape or KZN. All very different markets. So I think that for me, the single most important strategy for companies to succeed is to know your market, but really know those nuances.
What else would you say is notable about this index that maybe we haven't touched on, and how is it accessible to companies?
Yep, so it can be accessed through our website, controlrisk.com. And for me, what I really like about it is it takes the kind of a quantitative measure, which we do with our partners from Oxford Economics, but also a qualitative measure. I always find it interesting when a lot of these quantitative ones come out and they say that the best places to do business in Africa is Seychelles and Mauritius. And they're not wrong. It's a very good policy environment to have a holding company, but I don't think it's a market that most people are thinking that they're looking to enter and sell their goods. So I think what ARRI does is it really takes the quantitative and qualitative and the risks and rewards of those 24 economies and breaks it down of where companies should be heading.
Sean, thank you again for your time. We appreciate it here at Channel Africa.
Great. Thank you very much.
Sean Duthie is Director at Control Risks based in South Africa.
A fresh morning, a fresh perspective. Stay tuned to Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
Today in history, going back to 1980, you know that the United Nations General Assembly will be meeting next week. Well, in 1980, Prime Minister Robert Mugabe made his first appearance at the United Nations General Assembly. It was a new era, a new beginning for the country, and there was so much hope and a lot of anticipation. Later on, years later, he would make appearances at the United Nations and point fingers at a lot of the Western nations that were applauding him for the very first time when he addressed the UN on this day in 1980, September the 19th. It's 7:30, which means it's time for your news headlines. Here's Jwalani Tulongwepe.
Get Channel Africa on DSTV Audio Bouquet. Channel 802. SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning. Making headlines. 11 people detained in Ghana are being deported from the US, have sued the West African nation's government. South Africa's former Minister of Social Development, Lindiwe Zulu, has urged the Malawi Electoral Commission to improve conditions for voters in future elections. And finally, the United States has yet again vetoed a UN Security Council draft resolution demanding an immediate, unconditional and permanent ceasefire in Gaza. I will have details on these and other stories at 8 o'clock.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Now let's check in with the world of sports. Yes, Figile Lingwati to give us the details.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
We kick off with football news. The South African Football Association, SAFA, has confirmed that they have received communication from World Football's governing body, FIFA, and is investigating the Tebogo Mokoena saga. The Bafana Bafana midfielder was fielded in the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifier against Lesotho in March, despite having collected 2 yellow cards. 28-year-old Mokoena was ineligible to play in the match. Bafana won 2-0 in Polokwane. If found guilty, South Africa could be docked 3 points. SAFA Chief Executive Lydia Munyepao says they will be in touch with FIFA sometime this week.
We've received confirmation from FIFA that they're investigating the matter, which is something that we've been waiting for a very long time. So it's now on the table and we are preparing our defense for that, and we need to be reverting to FIFA in the next couple of days. So all our attention is on that. We've got attorneys that have already been appointed to help us as well.
Munyepao says the team's objective is to win the 2 remaining matches regardless of the outcome of the FIFA investigation.
The focus, when I spoke to Coach Hugo Bruce, it's about ensuring that we get maximum points come October. You know, anything else is a noise to us. You know, Tebogo, Nigeria, whatever, it's noise to us. For us, it's about ensuring that the team, you know, remains focused.
4 Ghanaian match officials have been appointed to handle the CAF Confederations Cup preliminary round clash between Stade Tunisian of Tunisia and ASC SMI de Ndoro of Mauritania on Saturday. FIFA referee Reginald Collins Amoa will take charge as the center stage referee, supported by assistant referees Paul Kodzo Atimaka, who steps in for Kwasi Achompong Broby and Seth Ablerto. Blaise Yawo Selom will serve as the 4th official. The Confederation of African Football has also appointed a Moroccan duo, Yaya Hadga as referee assessor and Jamal Kauchi as match commissioner. Stade Tunisian will host ASC Snin Den Nadubo in the first preliminary round of the Total Energies CAF Confederations Cup on Saturday. And Botswana's 21-year-old Busang Colin Kibina Tsipi won gold in the World 400 meters on Thursday, roaring clear in 43.53 seconds, with compatriot Baya Pondori taking bronze on a memorable night for the African nation. Kibina Tsipi, who scorched a season-leading 43.61 in the semi-finals on Tuesday, ran a brilliantly judged race as others went out hard and came off the final bend strongly, driving through the rain for a dominant victory. Jarim Richards of Trinidad and Tobago took silver in the national record 43.72 seconds. And rugby news. In a significant boost for women's rugby development, South African Rugby has confirmed a brand new club competition for women with Bedway as the title sponsor, while the Under-20 women's tournament will see more participating teams than ever before converge on the Johannesburg courts and stadium next month. Both tournaments will take place in the week of the 5th and the 10th of October in the Gauteng province. The Bedway Women's Club Championship at Alberton Rugby Club and the Under-20s Women Tournament at Queen's High School. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +271 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport with me, Fikile Ngwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Parlez-vous couramment le français? Êtes-vous passionné par la radio? Et êtes-vous qualifié pour travailler en Afrique du Sud? Envoyez-nous votre CV et vos 3 minutes démo en MP3 à @channelafrica.co.za pour avoir une chance de rejoindre la famille Channel Africa. Si vous n'avez pas de réponse après 14 jours, cela signifie que vous n'avez pas été retenu. Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
Right, if you want to find out what's been happening in the world of business, listen up, because at the Business News Desk with an update, here's Nosibo Zuma. Good morning.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning. In your business news, SASAWA, African petroleum regulators led by Nigeria, have launched a continental forum. The forum is aimed at harmonizing oil regulation in a bid to attract a crucial investment across the region's expanding energy sector. Now, due to declining investment dollars, African oil regulators are betting that a more integrated energy market where rules are consistent and transparent across jurisdictions can unlock capital. 16 countries gathered in Accra to witness the signing of the charter establishing the African Petroleum Regulators Forum. The South African Broadcasting Corporation, the SABC Group CEO Nomsa Chabedi, has told thousands of delegates at the Nedbank IMC conference that the public broadcaster remains a favorable destination for investment. The SABC is a proud partner of Africa's biggest marketing conference. The public broadcaster has faced a significant financial constraint in recent years. Chabedi says SABC is still a powerful brand despite its shortcomings.
The SABC, we need to remember, is that it also ensures South Africa's cultural relevance. And as marketers, you want to be at the point of interest, the point of conversion, because there you have an audience that is receptive, that is listening, because what they're listening to is in the language of their choice, which is very, very critical, which is only the SABC actually that offers that. No one else offers that in South Africa or, in fact, on the African continent. So we're saying to marketers, partnering with the SABC is partnering with relevance.
South Africa's Reserve Bank Monetary Policy Committee has decided to keep the repo rate unchanged at 7% and the prime lending rate also unchanged at 10.5%. Despite the current decline in the inflation expectations, the bank expects inflation to rise in the next few months and peak at 4%. Now, this is mainly due to the anticipated higher electricity prices following NERSA's latest price correction. Addressing a press briefing in Pretoria, Reserve Bank Governor Lesetja Kganyago said economic growth for the year has been revised up from 0.9% to 1.2%.
Against this backdrop, the MPC decided to keep the policy rate unchanged at 7%. 4 members preferred to keep rates on hold, while 2 favored a cut of 25 basis points. Since September last year, we have reduced rates by 125 basis points, and we want to see how this is affecting the economy, how expectations evolve, and how inflation risks are resolved.
U.S. President Donald Trump and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer have signed what they say is a groundbreaking technology deal between the two countries. Starmer said he would help create thousands of jobs. Now, Trump described the deal as an indication that the ties between Britain and the U.S. were closer than ever.
I think it's an unbreakable bond we have, regardless of what we're doing today. I think it's unbreakable. But this is very big, and I want to thank all of the incredibly talented business leaders, the best in the world, biggest in the world, here this afternoon for investing in the Anglo-American Alliance, and you personify an important part of the unique national bond and really a world bond. What you've done is incredible. Our two countries do a great deal of business together, $340 billion last year.
And finally, more than 80 people have been arrested as thousands across France protested over the government's austerity plans. Disruptions have been reported on public transport. The BBC's Paul Moss reports.
The French don't tend to do things by half when it comes to strikes and protest. And Thursday's day of action has already seen transport services suspended and roads blocked. Even electricity supplies have been affected, with a nuclear power station forced to cut back when staff walked out. The workers are angry, a trade union statement said. What they're angry at is the French government's plan for a budget which will cut public spending in order to reduce the national debt. One union leader warned that the budget would be decided on the streets.
Your financial indicators: one US dollar in Nigeria is trading at 1,000 naira 490, and Botswana is 13 pula 11. In Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shilling 40, and in Zambia is 23 kwacha 40. The BRICS countries: $1 in Brazil is trading at 5 real 30. Russia is 83 rubles 44. India is 87 rupees 81. China at 7 yuan 10, and in South Africa $1 is trading at 17 rand 36. $1 is trading at 73 pence to the British pound and 84 to the euro. Looking at commodities, gold is trading at $3,646 and platinum at $1,384 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil is at $67.40 a barrel. Now, for any business news stories you would like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I'm Nusi Posuma.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Start your day right with Channel Africa Breakfast.
That smells delicious.
Live, 5 days a week. This September, Channel Africa celebrates Heritage Month. A time to honor the stories, the rhythms, and the languages that make us who we are. Whether you're in Lagos or the shores of Zanzibar, to the mountains of Lesotho or the markets of Dakar, we are united in diversity.
Najivunia kuwa Mwafrika.
Kukondolera Afrika ndiye nto wake.
Proudly African and fabulous.
Let us preserve our languages. Let's embrace our uniqueness. Let's embrace our cultures and celebrate the beauty of our continent. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Bringing you the energy, news, and good vibes to kickstart your day. This is Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
South Africa has become the first country on the continent to welcome Emirates' retrofitted Boeing 777. The aircraft was officially unveiled with a water salute, showcasing upgrades that include the introduction of a premium economy cabin. Channel Africa's Lebogang Mabange was at the launch and found this report.
At the exclusive preview, Emirates showcased its retrofitted Boeing 777, the first deployment of this next-generation aircraft in Africa. The static tour introduced the airline's new premium economy class and redesigned business class cabins, reflecting Emirates' vision of elevating passenger comfort and experience. Speaking at the launch, Emirates Vice President of Commercial Operations for Sub-Saharan Africa, Rashid Alada, said the arrival of the aircraft is a continuation of the airline's promise to customers.
The introduction of our retrofitted Boeing 777 to Johannesburg and Cape Town is a continuation of that promise, bringing a best-in-class suite of products across our new cabins to South African skies. Our retrofit program is unrivaled in the aviation industry in scale and size, uniquely focused on enhancing the onboard experience for customers. Meticulously orchestrated under the expertise of Emirates engineering team, we are rolling out 2 retrofitted aircraft every month.
Alada added that the launch reflects Emirates' long-term commitment to the African market.
We remain committed to South Africa and broader Africa and to growing traffic in and out of the region. We have been unwavering in our commitment to Africa's aviation, tourism, and trade sectors, creating new opportunities for mutual growth and prosperity and I look forward to working with all of you moving forward.
Director of the South African Civil Aviation Authority, Poppy Khoza, emphasized the strong bilateral ties between South Africa and the UAE.
Building on the existing bilateral air services agreement or bilateral air service agreement, our strong collaboration was further reinforced through the technical cooperation agreement, which was signed on the 12th of February between the civil aviation authorities of South Africa as well as of the UAE, which of course continues to strengthen bilateral ties and support the sustainable growth of aviation connectivity between our two countries, which is South Africa and the UAE.
Khoza also highlighted that while innovation in aviation is vital, safety and sustainability remain central to operations.
From a regulatory perspective, we believe that each innovation represents progress, and it is quite exciting to witness this industry evolve on a daily basis. While comfort and luxury are important, safety and security, but also sustainability remain non-negotiable. These elements are mutually inclusive. Passengers cannot feel comfortable if they do not feel safe, and this is indeed what we stand for as the South African Civil Aviation Authority.
Emirates Regional Manager for Southern Africa, Afzal Parambil, described the new cabin design as a blend of modern elegance and enhanced passenger experience.
Across the aircraft, you must have noticed it's got modern design touches. Very light colors, unique Gulf tree design, and Gulf tree is the national tree of UAE, and elegant wood finishes. The cabins feel brighter, more spacious, and designed to enhance passenger comfort, while keeping our award-winning service at the core of everything. We also reconfigured Boeing 777 to introduce our in-demand premium economy cabin to South Africa for the very first time. The cabin offers extra space, greater comfort, and premium dining experience, which you may see similar to that in other business class offered by other airlines.
The Emirates Boeing 777 retrofit marks not only an upgrade in passenger travel, but also a strengthening of aviation and trade ties between South Africa and the United Arab Emirates. Reporting for Channel Africa, I am Lebogang Mabange in the OR Tambo International Airport in Johannesburg, South Africa.
South Africa's government has been given 6 months to get their house in order when it comes to water. Several protests and marches took place this weekend, with communities protesting that in most areas taps have been dry. Among the protesters were Greenpeace Africa, which delivered a petition signed by over 25,000 concerned people alongside a memorandum of grievances to the Department of Water and Sanitation in Pretoria. And they're demanding urgent action to end the country's worsening water crisis. The organisation says that communities across South Africa continue to endure unsafe water, persistent shortages, failing infrastructure and untreated sewage affecting health, livelihoods and dignity. Channel Africa reporter Sisi Sekhalo spoke to Shumirai Ziju, who's the responsive campaigner at Greenpeace Africa.
Yes, so at Greenpeace Africa, we launched this petition earlier in the year, and we opened it up to residents and citizens of South Africa to come on board this fight that we're fighting in terms of trying to get the government to actually rectify pollution and water scarcity issues within the country. We really have such a great digital team that was able to utilize our social media leverage, and we reached out to all our networks. We rallied, we did multiple interviews, we posted on our social media, and I think because of the issue being such a pertinent one in the country, it wasn't really difficult to get the attention of South Africans to really come on board and support us. So we really owe it to our supporters within the region who came in and supported the petition.
And would I be correct in describing the water challenges in South Africa as a crisis?
You would be 100% on the money, Cece, yes. Well, I think the best way to maybe just show you how bad the situation is, maybe to just explain a few statistics for you, Cece. So if you look at the stats at current, 1 in 3 water systems in our country are on the teeter or the brink of collapse. Only 23% of our drinking water, Cece, is actually safe for human consumption. If you look at the wastewater that is discharged into our bodies of water, be it our oceans, our rivers, our lakes, 90% of it is either partially treated or not treated at all. We also have a drastic issue of people being exposed to various amounts of E. coli bacteria within the water. If you look at the Auditor General's PFMA report from 2020-2024, just 40% of South Africa's wastewater systems meet microbiological safety standards. And these are the shocking statistics that make this a very severe and dire crisis.
Shumirai, you work with communities. How are they navigating this reality of having no water and having polluted water?
Well, quite recently, about 2 months ago, my team and I went to the Alexandra community in the Johannesburg area, and we visited the Jukske River, which once was such a source of life and a big source of water for this community. And if you had to look at the condition that it's in, CC, you would be very, very concerned. That water can't even be rehabilitated. So when we speak about rehabilitation, you can't even pump it with enough chemicals or boil it, for example, to get it to a point where it's even safe to even use to clean your home, let alone to drink or survive on. And when you look at the crisis of us now having water shortages, our rivers and our oceans and our lakes should be alternate sources of water, which we now don't have. And when I went to these communities, they're in such dire straits, because unlike communities in the suburban areas who, when we experience water shortages, we just pop to the next Woolworths to Pick n Pay, we start hoarding all those 5 liters of water and we go home and we have all the source. These communities don't have that. They are in real crisis. And at this point, I think even looking at the protests that are going on, there is no other solution. And they're really struggling to cope. They're struggling to understand why a basic right, a constitutional right that is protected within Section 27 of our Constitution, is being denied to them. So to put it quite frankly, Cece, these communities are very vulnerable. They are struggling, and they're having to walk kilometers, 30, 40, 50 Ks to get to safe body streams to even get a little bit of water. So really, they are not managing at all.
As Greenpeace Africa, what do you suggest as a way forward or a workable solution?
Well, of course, within our petition, we really want government to really fast track this process. We think that, it's one thing, if load shedding was such a crisis, Cece, and what it is, water is even worse of a crisis. It really puts communities in a position where they can't actively participate in the economy. They can't actually actively wake up and engage in normal day-to-day routine mechanisms. So we have asked government to please put in measures, implement measures within the next 6 months, a detailed roadmap of how they plan to efficiently rectify infrastructure, repair infrastructure, correct the issues surrounding water shortages, and also treat our bodies of water that are so badly polluted. We have given them until the end of the year to also show to us as Greenpeace Africa how they intend to go and visit communities intentionally so. And we were told by Chief of Staff, Mr. Sakumzi Somyo, that the minister has heard our call. She has appointed the deputy minister to take this issue quite seriously. So really the instruction is for her to really give us within the next 6 months a full breakdown of how government plans on addressing the issues.
And just how far are you willing to go to ensure that your voices are heard?
Well, I think we have used all the correct structure. I think one thing I always like to reiterate is that when we campaign and as much as we are activists and we're passionate, we want to meaningfully engage with government. We want to do so within the confines of the Constitution. So when we did this March GWS, it is a constitutional right. We applied through the monetary platforms, through the police. We got a permit to do it, and we are very open to saying that I don't think, Cece, we are in a situation, as from a conversation with the Chief of Staff and the Minister on Tuesday, I don't think this issue is something that government is not willing to act on. So in this particular case, I'm very comfortable and confident in wanting to really engage meaningfully and seeing where that goes within the confines of the law.
That was Shumirai Zeju, who's a responsive campaigner at Greenpeace Africa, speaking to Channel Africa reporter Sisi Sechalo.
Download the SABC app and take Channel Africa with you everywhere you go. Africa, meet Abedi.
Yeah, that's me.
Abedi is a music lover through and through.
I really love African music.
He's got a taste for all kinds of tunes and spends his days listening to Channel Africa. Guess what? He didn't know.
Okay.
Channel Africa wants to help Abedi and all music lovers everywhere to discover even more incredible music. That is why Channel Africa is calling on all African musicians to submit their music. Musicians, remember to give us all your relevant information. Make your submissions at music@channelafrica.co.za. Submissions are your chance to be heard on radio. But sadly, they do not guarantee that you'll be playlisted. All submissions will be carefully reviewed to see if they meet our station's requirement. Channel Africa, the African perspective. A fresh morning, a fresh perspective. Stay tuned to Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
As the United Nations heads into its high-level General Assembly session next week, the organization is facing multiple simultaneous crises as it grapples with intersecting challenges from geopolitical concerns exacerbated by disagreements between the big powers and a fiscal crisis that makes the organization feel shaky. That's the view of Dr. Richard Gowan, who oversees the NGO, the International Crisis Group's advocacy work at the United Nations. The UN and its member states embark on an expansive program in the days ahead, from marking the 80th anniversary of the organization, a conference on Palestine, and the two-state solution, the general debate, as well as a number of side events on sustainable development and AI governance, among others. Sherwin Bryce-Peace reports.
As over 150 heads of state and government and an entourage of ministers and officials descend on New York and the United Nations for their annual diplomatic jamboree, this expert says the organization is facing a number of issues that complicate the road ahead. Listen to the International Crisis Group's Dr. Richard Gowan.
The UN is simultaneously struggling with a very bad political situation because the big powers still have very tense relations, and at the same time a very bad financial situation because the UN was heavily reliant on US financial support, which has been taken away. And this bad political situation and bad financial situation are coming together in a way that makes the organization's future feel very shaky. I think that if the US steps back from the UN, then a lot of other countries will ask whether it's worth continuing to work through the organization. Now, we have seen countries continuing to negotiate on things like a pandemic treaty, even though the US walked away. But the US has been central to funding the organization, and ultimately the US has been the key power in the UN Security Council.
Meetings kick off in earnest on Monday with an event to mark the 80th anniversary of the United Nations, followed by the annual SDG moment that seeks to infuse the development agenda with much-needed momentum, followed by a two-state solution conference as the war in Gaza continues unabated. The general debate begins on Tuesday, a climate summit on Wednesday, amid a push towards a new clean energy era, the launch of a global dialogue on AI governance, and a G20 ministerial meeting ahead of the Leaders' Summit in South Africa this November, among some of the key events. We asked Gowan which issues are likely to dominate this year.
I think there are going to be three top questions around this General Assembly. Firstly, what does Donald Trump say? Will he send out some challenging messages about the future of international cooperation? Second, Gaza. Everyone's eyes are on the appalling situation in the Middle East, and everyone is desperate to find a way out of the war. And then finally, there's just a question about where is the UN heading? And is it possible to reform the organization so that it survives these very difficult times?
With the wars in Ukraine and Sudan, the latter representing the largest humanitarian crisis in the world today, also expected to draw some discussion from leaders across the board.
It's tragically the case that right now, world leaders have limited bandwidth. And I don't even think that the war between Russia and Ukraine is going to get as much attention this year as it has in past years. I think there is a feeling amongst a lot of UN members that although there are many crises in the world, the organization has a special responsibility for the Palestinians. After all, the UN has been involved in the Israeli-Palestinian situation since the 1940s, and so it does tend to dominate.
That report by Showen Bryce Peace.
Start your day right with Channel Africa Breakfast.
That smells delicious.
Live, 5 days a week.
It's 8 o'clock Central African time, which means it's time for the last hour of the final edition of Rise and Shine for this week. And a reminder that we're broadcasting live from our studios in Johannesburg, South Africa, on the internet at www.channelafrica.co.za. And you can also catch us on your mobile apps. Just look for SABC Plus in your app store. And once you're there, look for Channel Africa. And my name is Peter Ndoro.
And my name is Asanda Beda, and we'll be getting into our programming shortly in terms of this hour. Let's start with our news first, though. Here's Jolani Tulongwepe with that, and then we'll get headlines, sports-wise, from Fikile Lingwati.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Asanda. Good morning. 11 people detained in Ghana are being deported from the US have sued the West African nation government. Their lawyer Oliver Barker Vomavo has told the BBC that the deportees had not violated any Ghanaian law and their detention in a military camp was therefore illegal. He wanted the government to produce the group in court and justify why they were being held against their will. The government has not yet commented on the lawsuit. Opposition MPs are demanding the immediate suspension of the deportation deal until Parliament ratifies it, saying this was required under Ghanaian law. South Africa's former Minister of Social Development, Lindiwe Zulu, has urged the Malawi Electoral Commission, or MEC, to improve conditions for voters in future elections. Zulu spoke to Channel Africa in the capital Lilongwe, where she is observing Malawi's September 16 general elections with the Africa Centre for Governance Electoral Observer Mission. She said many voters, including mothers with infants and the elderly, were forced to stand in long queues under difficult circumstances. This is despite the Commission promising to cater for vulnerable groups in the lead up to the elections. She said these concerns will be included in the observer's final report aimed at strengthening Malawi's electoral process going forward.
Also, what they will have to look at is really the conditions. Some women are coming here, they have very, very tiny babies, and they have to stand in the queue for a very long time. You have elderly who are being assisted even in walking, and they have to stand in the queues for a very, very long time.
Family and friends of a Kenyan athlete say they're shocked after learning about his capture in Ukraine fighting for Russia. In a video released by Ukraine, Evans Kibet claims he was tricked into joining the war while he was visiting St. Petersburg. He says his passport and phone were taken and he was made to sign documents in Russian, not realizing that he was enlisting as a soldier. Speaking to the BBC, his brother Isaac Masai appeals to the Kenyan government for help.
We are highly and very much shocked to have received such information concerning our brother, whom we know and hope that Evans has never been involved in such cases. We are pleading with the government of Kenya to intervene.
South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa is hosting the DRC's President Felix Tshisekedi for a working visit at Mahlamba Ndlovu, the president's official residence in Pretoria. The two leaders will have an opportunity to engage on a variety of issues for mutual interest, with the hope of enhancing a strategic relationship and fostering closer cooperation between the two countries. Bonolo Maribe has more.
President Felix Tshisekedi's trip to South Africa comes amid ongoing efforts by Qatar and the US to find peace in the DRC. The DRC Army and the M23 group are reinforcing military positions and blaming each other for flouting peace accords in an escalation that experts say risks reigniting the simmering conflict. Both countries are members of SADC and aim to cooperate on regional issues, including economic integration and security. South Africa, in support of SADC, the African Union and UN, plays a constructive role in promoting peace and stability in the DRC.
The United States has yet again vetoed a UN Security Council draft resolution demanding an immediate, unconditional and permanent ceasefire in Gaza. The text was put forward by the elected 10 members of the Council and received 14 votes in favour, including 4 of the 5 permanent members with veto power. But it was the United States that cast its 6th veto over the almost 2-year war between Israel and Hamas. Sharon Bryce-Pease reports that the vote came days after Israel launched a massive ground offensive in Gaza City, again displacing hundreds of thousands of traumatized Palestinians.
The text demanded not only a permanent ceasefire, but recalled earlier demands for the immediate, dignified and unconditional release of all hostages held by Hamas and other groups, and further demanded that the government of Israel unconditionally lift all restrictions on the entry of humanitarian aid into Gaza. The US representative called the draft unacceptable, accusing the Council of a performative action designed to draw a veto, arguing that the draft resolution would provide Hamas with a lifeline while continuing to insist that Israel had the right to defend itself.
For any news stories you would like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa News, I'm Cholani Tulo Mwepe.
SABC News. The African perspective.
Now, sports headline: Barcelona kicked off the Champions League bid with victory away from home. And Rwanda pedals into history with Africa's first road cycling world championships. I'll be back with these and other stories at the bottom of the hour.
Wake up, Africa. Peter Ndoro and Asanda Beda are here to help you rise and shine. Weekdays, 6 till 9 a.m. Central African Time. Only on Channel Africa.
Right, it's 6 minutes past 8 Central African Time, and we go to East Africa for our next story, where Ugandan opposition leader Dr. Kizza Besigye remains behind bars after a court denied him bail. The former military officer, physician and long-time challenger and former friend to President Yoweri Museveni has now spent nearly 9 months in detention facing treason charges. His lawyers argue that under Uganda's constitution, he should have been released automatically after 180 days without trial. Besigye, who previously led the Forum for Democratic Change, has stood against Museveni in 4 presidential elections and is again seeking the presidency in the 2026 polls. His detention has sparked renewed debate over constitutional rights, judicial independence, and the state of democracy in Uganda. Now, to discuss this case and its wider implications, we're now joined by human rights lawyer Kizza Enron, who's one of Dr. Besigye's legal representatives. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, and good to talk to you again.
It's my pleasure to talk to you too.
Perhaps we can start with maybe explaining the circumstances under which Kizza Besigye was arrested and the specific treason charges that he's currently facing.
Yeah, so Besigye on 16th of November 2024 moved with his political aide and ally and friend Hajrutare Obed. They went to Kenya to attend the launch of a book against the tide by Honorable Karua Martha, the Kenyan politician and human rights activists. While there that very day, on 16th November, they were going to attend a meeting at a hotel and they were abandoned by security of Kenya and Uganda and renditioned across the border or into a military detention in Kampala, much in the military barracks, where they were detained for 4 days in Communicado before they were arraigned in a military tribunal, whose proceedings the Supreme Court later, subsequently on 31st January, ruled were utterly illegal and the military courts had no jurisdiction. What followed then was after even it took a hunger strike for the Ugandan authorities to respect the Supreme Court decision and transfer him to a civilian court. And the civilian court have continued the work of the military courts to keep him in detention. And despite being eligible for mandatory bail, which the Constitution says that after 180 days, if you're dealing with capital charges before you're committed to High Court, you can be granted bail. The court skirted around that provision and said that they could only concern themselves with the detention in a civilian remanded custody. And they are still holding him to date, even as his health continues to decline, even as the judiciary displays a lack of impartiality and independence that are the linchpins for a democratic society and are clearly stipulated in our constitution. So his boss, Besigye, and his aide Rutare are in a legally dangerous situation whereby their rights to personal liberty are curtailed and their entitlement to due process is not being respected by the civilian judges who are now increasingly looking and behaving like and siding like their military tribunal counterparts. Thank you.
Talking about the military tribunal, Dr. Besigye is no longer a soldier. How did he end up before a military court?
So the Ugandan authorities have a tendency of using military tribunals to get even with their political foes, and that's how Besigye ends up in a military court. They used to use an excuse of saying that if you aid a military man or you're found in possession of some materials that are ordinarily monopoly of the military, then you could end up in a military court, and they would simply just make that thing on a charge sheet and take you to a military court. But that notion was also rejected in the Supreme Court recently and stripped the military courts of powers over civilians. However, of course, there is a new development in 2025. This month, the executive went to Parliament and rushed through a new amendment that again clothes the military tribunals with powers to try civilians in certain respect. Noteworthy, this cannot apply retrospectively, so it would still and has not been applied to any civilians yet. But subsequent going forward, they may resort their tactics of using military tribunals to fix their political opponents. It is really a political fight that is being taken into military proceedings using military tribunals, in charge of which the executive has total control and there is no breathing space. Yeah,
did the
that's
court offer an explanation why it's ignoring the constitution regarding the 180-day rule?
Yes, they gave a flimsy excuse that they started counting from February when Besigye and Rutare were transferred to the civilian courts, rather than from the time, as the constitution requires, they had been in custody, which is November 16th or November 20th, when they were arraigned before the military tribunal. So for them, they claimed that the court blinded itself to the proceedings and the custody that occurred in the military tribunal and purported to count days from when the civilian courts remanded the duo.
What can you tell us about Dr. Besigye's health 9 months in detention? I know at one stage he had put himself on a hunger strike, and that must have had consequences. What's the state of being at the moment?
So we are dealing with a 69-year-old person, is almost 70, who has been in detention since last year and who had a hunger strike in February in order to force a respect for the Supreme Court ruling to transfer him to a civilian court. His health is on and off, and like it swings, but it's not an emergency right now, but he's in a bad shape.
What is he saying to you when you see him?
He doesn't want to appear before the judge that has been allocated his file, because that judge is the one who is displaying bias and skirting around constitutional provisions, and is said any further proceedings should be before an impartial judge, an independent judge, not biased judges who are not willing to respect or read the law. That's his major concern for now. Yeah, that's it.
There is a regional court in East Africa. We've got an East African who was abducted from Kenya and is being having his rights abused by the Ugandan government. Is this East African court powerless to do anything, or is it a question of it's choosing not to?
Neither of the two. The court is not powerless, but it's also not necessarily choosing, because it is starved and crippled of financial muscle to do its work by the politicians who are supposed to fund it. This court needs money to do its work. It's not being given money by the heads of state. So it is in a financial quagmire that has crippling implications on its performance of the legal functions.
Beyond Dr. Besija himself, what does this case reveal about the state of the rule of law generally and judicial independence in Uganda today?
Both judicial independence and rule of law have deteriorated markedly, because the USJ case is just one of the several illustrators of patterns of political persecution, political detentions, and the militarization of justice. The judiciary has gotten worse over time, with the promotion of what we call cadre judges here, but basically pro-regime judges, who are appointed in a manner that is not accountable, not transparent, and shrouded in mystery and secrecy. So the judiciary has got weaker over the years, and the political detentions, which an independent judiciary would stem, have also skyrocketed. And all this comes in the context of the strengthening of the monarchical tendencies of Museveni's rule, with him positioning his son to take over not just the military, which the son now heads, but also the entire presidency of the country, as Museveni continues to grow even much, much, much older. Thank you.
What options are still available to you and the rest of the legal team to secure the release of Dr. Besija, given what you've told us about the legal system and, dare I say, the capture of the judiciary?
The legal options are few. We would have to apply for bail again, which is not enthusiastic about, given the legal landscape. But I think beyond the needs to exert maximum pressure on the Museveni regime to release the political opponent where the answer lies, because the legal decisions, the judges' decisions, reflect the political sentiment at the top. Without the clearance from the top, it's unlikely that we have a judge who is bold enough to release that duo of Besija and his political aid. It's very unlikely. So pressure, political and diplomatic pressure, are the real answers, not legal interventions. Thank you.
What do you think Dr. Besige's ordeals and his detentions send to ordinary Ugandans? Is it a warning to anybody who might want to express dissent?
No, they are not going to warn them, but they know the reality is that it is harsh. It's a harsh reality for dissenters, for critics, but Besigye himself would encourage more people to criticize the regime so that there is an overwhelming mass of people who are critics and hopefully stretch the resources of the regime to oppress them. He thinks that the more people become critical, the less those who are critical are targeted.
It must be very, very difficult on the family, and I know that you're in touch with them. How are they feeling?
Terrible, terrible. The family has gone through unimaginable pain, suffering, and inconvenience because of the ordeal of their patriarchs, their fathers. The children can hardly access them. The spouses can hardly access them. The sisters have difficult accessing. Access is hard and on specific a few hours or minutes. And there's no privacy, no privacy. Everything they do is done under supervision, whether it is a doctor's trip, whether it is a discussion with a loved one. So there is a total violation of privacy. There is the limited access, and clearly the mental anguish is acute for both the detainees and the detainees' families.
Looking ahead to the 2026 elections, what impact do you think his continued detention will have on opposition politics in general and prospects for a fair contest?
It reduces them dramatically. His political party, for example, is denuded of its most vigorous campaigner. But so the opposition, though it has another strong opposition leader, would do very well with having their most experienced opposition figure traversing the country rather than being detained. So it has adverse impact, but it's also part of the regime politics. We are told they would want to release him after the elections are over. The regime knows that it's not a good idea to have him out during elections because he brings excitement, he brings ideas, experience, and fundraising, and they are better off with him in detention. And they seem to be bent on that, despite his every effort to gain his freedom.
What's your message to the international community and regional bodies like the African Union about Dr. Besige's case?
That they should do more to exert pressure on the government of Uganda to stop political persecution and to release political detainees. They are not doing enough. Thank you.
And that's where we'll leave it. Thank you so much indeed for giving us your time and an opportunity to talk to you once again. Thank you so much.
Most welcome.
That was Kizza Enron, who's one of Dr. Kizza Besige's legal representatives, giving us an update on the situation in Uganda. Dr. Besige continues to be behind bars, and despite the constitution saying that after 180 days, he should automatically have been given bail, but the authorities are trying and have continued to ignore some of these legal decisions by keeping him detained.
Call us on +27 63 406 9126 and contribute to the conversation.
Zilipendwa na Abedi Jean de la Croix.
Wewe ni mjasiriamali unajihusisha na biashara ya kuuza dawa. Jaribu kutuambia kwanza, kwa nini ulianzisha biashara hiyo?
Tutasema kwamba maisha ya kila siku ni kwamba mtu anapashwa kuwa na maisha ya kuweza kujitegemea. Usitegemee kuajiriwa, lakini utegemee kujiajiri, na baadaye utaweza ukaajiri wengine. Na hiyo ilinipa msukumo mkubwa kwa kuweza kujiajiri na kampuni hii kwa ajili ya kuweza kuwasaidia wale ambao wanahangaika zaidi.
Unauza aina gani ya dawa?
Unasema ni dawa, lakini kwetu sisi tunaita kama vile ni pipi, ambayo ni virutubisho ambavyo vinakwenda kusaidia kwa wale ambao wanatatizwa na aina tofauti ya magonjwa.
Virutubisho hivyo sasa vinatibu magonjwa gani?
Virutubisho hivi vinatunza magonjwa kama vile ya kisukari, shinikizo la damu.
Zilipendwa kila Jumamosi kuanzia saa 12 kamili majira ya Afrika ya Kati hadi saa 1 kamili majira ya Afrika ya Kati.
Africa. It's time to plug into the heartbeat of the continent. Tune in to Channel Africa, your go-to radio station that broadcasts in 5 different languages.
L'Afrique du Sud célèbre la journée nationale du
Kabla hujaitwa kwa jina la Double K,
or more of our forests have been destroyed. Partido Africano da Independência da Guiné.
See, Channel Africa represents every corner of this amazing land. From Lagos to Cape Town, Nairobi to Dakar, we've got you covered with the freshest news, music, and cultures. So, turn up the volume, feel the rhythm. Enjoy the conversation. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Your morning companion with the stories that matter. This is Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
South Africa's Gauteng High Court has dismissed an urgent application by the MK political party, ruling it too late to challenge President Cyril Ramaphosa's decisions in response to allegations made by Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. The disputed actions include placing Police Minister Senzo Mchunu on special leave, appointing Professor Firoz Kachalia as his replacement, and establishing the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. The ruling comes just over a month after the Constitutional Court declined to hear the case and a day after the commission began its work. Busibo Pela reports.
It was Gauteng High Court Judge Ronald Tolmay who delivered the judgment, rejecting the MK party's arguments as to the unlawfulness of President Cyril Ramaphosa's actions.
The President's decision has already been implemented. The proverbial horse has indeed bolted. The Madlanga Commission commenced its work yesterday. Mr. Mchunu was placed on leave of absence, and Acting Minister Kasharia was appointed and has assumed office.
The judgment was in stark contrast to what lawyer for the MK party, Advocate Dalimpofu, declared was self-evident with regards to the urgency of the matter. He had argued that the Constitutional Court itself, while rejecting the party's argument of exclusive jurisdiction, recognized the urgency of the matter in July this year by returning a verdict just a day after arguments. Mpofu also quoted Mkhwanazi in his testimony on Wednesday, who described the criminal justice system as being on the brink of collapse.
There is I don't know whether acting minister or whatever, who's illegally appointed. So actually the whole country is now being run illegally, the security system. And 3, you assume that there's another minister, also called the Minister of Police, is on leave being paid by the taxpayer for the next at least minimum of 6 months for doing nothing. Just assume those 3 things only. And on what basis can one say, no, you can hear this in due course? What is due course? Due course means February, March next year when the whole commission will be done.
Counsel for President Cyril Ramaphosa, Advocate Ngwako Menechi, objected strongly to Mpofu's assertions, saying the MK party had failed to meet the requirements for its case to be considered urgent. These relate to whether there would be an opportunity for substantial redress if the order was not granted, and if The applicant had sought to resolve the matter timeously.
If the court declares the commission unlawful, it will give just an equitable remedy. This court will do the same. This court may decline to set aside the commission of inquiry, even if my learned friends were to convince the court that there's an invalidity about that commission. So their position now and their position later is no different. The second point they say is that the so-called Minister of Police has since assumed office. So the horse has bolted. The minister is in his office, he's performing his function. That is not a justification for agency. It counts against them. They should have come to court to stop the minister taking office. They tried, but they went to the wrong court. Who's to blame for that?
In making his spirited application, Bofu also urged the court to put itself in the shoes of the families of the victims under investigation in the 121 political killing documents central to Mkhwanazi's claims. He says they will be looking for closure. This was, however, dismissed as playing to the gallery by Counsel for Police Minister Senzo Mchunu, Advocate Griffiths Madonsela, who said that the party had simply adopted a bad legal strategy when it approached the Constitutional Court for direct access and exclusive jurisdiction, leaving itself with few options once this was declined.
The point about this 121 dockets argument, which has been raised for the first time in support of agency in this court, is now submission nothing else but to sensationalize the matter in order to elide and avoid a legal issue of agency. The dockets, the 121 dockets, are a subject of discussion in the Madonna Commission now. And that's the point. Why the president referred the matter to the Madonna Commission, to have those matters play themselves out and dealt with.
That report by Busi Bopela. It's 8:30 Central African time now. That means news headlines time. Here's Jolani Tulo Umwebe.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Asanda. Good morning. Making headlines, 11 people detained in Ghana after being deported from the US have sued the West African nation's government. Family and friends of a Kenyan athlete say they're shocked about learning about his capture in Ukraine, fighting for Russia. And finally, the Palestinian ambassador to the United Nations has expressed regret at the move of the US to veto a draft UN Security Council resolution demanding an immediate and permanent ceasefire in Gaza. I will have details on these and other stories at 9 o'clock.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Right, let's get into the sport now ahead of a sporting weekend. And here's Figile Lingwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
We kick off with football news. Marcus Rashford scored twice as Barcelona kicked off their Champions League bid with a 2-1 victory away to Newcastle United. Rashford was still looking for his first Barcelona goals following his July loan move from Manchester United, and he got off the mark by heading a Jules Kounde's cross just before the hour at St. James Park. The England international then doubled the Spanish champions' lead with a ferocious right foot shot from outside the area high into the top corner midway through the second half. The South African Football Association has confirmed that they have received communication from FIFA. The World Football's governing body is investigating the Tebogo Mokoena saga. The Bafana midfielder was fielded in the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifier against Lesotho in March, despite having collected 2 yellow cards. A 28-year-old Mokoena was ineligible to play in the match Bafana won 2-0 in Polokwane. If found guilty, South Africa could be docked 3 points. SAFA Chief Executive Lydia Monyepao says they will be in touch with FIFA sometime this week.
We've received confirmation from FIFA that they have they're investigating the matter, which is something that we've been waiting for a very long time. So it's now on the table, and we are preparing our defense for that. And we need to be reverting to FIFA in the next couple of days. So all our attention is on attorneys that have already been appointed to help us as well.
Monyepao says the team's objective is to win the 2 remaining matches. regardless of the outcome of the FIFA investigation.
The focus, when I spoke to Coach Hugo Bruce, is it's about ensuring that we get maximum points come October. Anything else is a noise to us. Tebogo, Nigeria, whatever, it's noise to us. For us, it's about ensuring that the team, remains focused.
4 Ghanaian match officials have been appointed to handle the CAF Confederations Cup preliminary round clash between Stade Tunisian of Tunisia and ASC Snim de Nodabu of Mauritania on Saturday. FIFA referee Reginald Collins Amoa will take charge as the center referee, supported by assistant referee Paul Kodzo Atimaka, who steps in for Kwasi Achampong Broby and Seth Ableta. And finally, with cycling news, in the capital Kigali, Rwanda is expected to host the first World Championships on African soil, with Tadej Pogacar, Remco Evenepoel, Pauline Ferrand-Prevot and Chloe Deget among the headline riders from the 21st to the 28th of September. 13 events are on the program, with 5 elite world titles on offer. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport. With me, Figede Lungwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Cher auditeur, Channel Africa aimerait mieux te connaître. Nous lançons un sondage sur l'audience et nous t'invitons à donner ton avis sur nos programmes. Participez à notre enquête sur www.channelafrica.co.za et sur tous nos réseaux sociaux. Et courez ainsi la chance de gagner une tablette Samsung ou un des 2 téléphones portables Samsung A23. Le sondage est disponible en anglais, en français, en portugais, en Kiswahili et en Chinyanja. Notre désir en tant que station est de mieux vous comprendre. Hashtag, nous valorisons votre apport.
Let's check in with the world of business now as we get the business news, the latest therein, with Nosipo Zuma.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Thank you, Asanda. Good morning. In your business news this hour, experts in South Africa are concerned about the correlation between alcohol advertising and how it shapes the drinking habits under age consumption of liquor. The Southern African Alcohol Policy Alliance has collated data indicating that children repeatedly exposed to alcohol advertising are more likely to start drinking heavily at a young age. Now, this after the University of Cape Town in the Western Cape government surveyed 49,000 grade 8 and 9 learners across 123 schools. The South African Medical Research Council spokesperson, Professor Sue Goldstein, has reacted to the findings.
So what they're talking about is restricting alcohol advertising reduces youth drinking. So there's one of those reviews which actually shows that. And then there's consistent evidence along a whole range of studies that are ongoing. So these studies start with at a period, say last year, and then they carry on for a number of years. And that's very important because the longitudinal study helps us to understand causality. So
the South African Broadcasting Corporation SABC's Group CEO Nomsacha Beda has told thousands of delegates at the Nedbank IMC conference that the public broadcaster remains a favorable destination for investment. The SABC is a proud partner of Africa's biggest marketing conference. The public broadcaster has faced significant financial constraints in recent years, primarily due to a decline in TV license compliance and competition from digital media platforms. A private company, BMIT, has been appointed to come up with a viable funding model for the broadcaster. Chabedi says the SABC is still a powerful brand despite its shortcomings.
The SABC, we need to remember, is that it also ensures South Africa's cultural relevance. And as marketers, you want to be at the point of interest, a point of conversion, because there you have an audience that is receptive, that is listening, because what they're listening to is in the language of their choice, which is very, very critical, which is only the SABC actually that offers that. No one else offers that in South Africa or, in fact, on the African continent. So we're saying to marketers, partnering with the SABC is partnering with relevance.
African petroleum regulators led by Nigeria have launched a continental forum. The forum is aimed at harmonizing oil regulation in a bid to attract crucial investment across the region's expanding energy sector. Now, due to declining investment dollars, African oil regulators are betting that a more integrated energy market where rules are consistent and transparent across jurisdictions can unlock capital. 16 countries gathered in Accra to witness the signing of the charter establishing the African Petroleum Regulators Forum. South Africa's Reserve Bank's Monetary Policy Committee has decided to keep the repo rate unchanged at 7% and the prime lending rate also unchanged at 10.5%. Now, despite the current decline in inflation and inflation expectations, the bank expects inflation to rise in the next few months and peak at 4%. Now, this is mainly due to the anticipated higher electricity prices following NERSA's latest price correlation. Addressing a press briefing in Pretoria, Reserve Bank Governor Lesetja Kganyago said economic growth for the year has been revised up from 0.9% to 1.2%.
Against this backdrop, the MPC decided to keep the policy rate unchanged at 7%. 4 members preferred to keep rates on hold, while 2 favored a cut of 25 basis points. Since September last year, we have reduced rates by 125 basis points, and we want to see how this is affecting the economy, how expectations evolve, and how inflation risks are resolved.
And finally, US President Donald Trump and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer have signed what they say is a groundbreaking technology deal between the two countries. Starmer said they would help create thousands of jobs. Trump described the deal as an indication that the ties between Britain and the US were closer than ever.
I think it's an unbreakable bond we have, regardless of what we're doing today. I think it's unbreakable. But this is very big, and I want to thank all of the incredibly talented business leaders, the best in the world, biggest in the world, here this afternoon for investing in the Anglo-American Alliance. And you personify an important part of the unique national bond and really a world bond. What you've done is incredible. Our two countries do a great deal of business together, $340 billion last year.
Your financial indicators: $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,000 naira 490, and Botswana is 13 pula 11. Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shilling 40, and in Zambia it's 23 kwacha 40. The BRICS countries: $1 in Brazil is trading at 5 ruble 30. Russia is 83 rubles 44. India is 87 rupees 81. China is 7 yuan 10, and in South Africa $1 is trading at 17 rand 36. Looking at commodities, gold is trading at $3,646 and platinum at $1,384 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil is at $67.40 a barrel. Now, for any business news stories you would like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I'm Nusipho Zuma.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Get the news, music, and lifestyle of Africa on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Heritage Month is a time to remember where we come from and celebrate where we are going. Channel Africa. Catch us on DSTV channel 802. A fresh morning, a fresh perspective. Stay tuned to Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
South Africa's Deputy Minister of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment, Narend Singh, says that There is a need to accelerate beneficiation. Singh was speaking at the opening of the second African Biotrade Festival taking place at the Sandton Convention Centre in Johannesburg. The 3-day festival is organised and hosted by Bioproducts Advancement Network of South Africa, Biopanza. Biopanza is a coordination network established to address key challenges within the biospecting and biotrade sector. Tutong Gobeni has more.
The second African Biotrade Festival, ABF, taking place in South Africa at the Sandton Convention Centre in Johannesburg in the Gauteng province, is a 3-day festival which ends this Saturday on the 20th. The festival is organized and hosted by Bioproducts Advancement Network of South Africa, Biopanza. Biopanza is a coordination network established to address key challenges within the bioprospecting and biotrade sector. It operates under a national tripartite governance structure formalized through a memorandum of understanding between 3 government departments, that is the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment, DFFE, the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation, and the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition. Deputy Minister at DFFE, Naren Singh, says there's a need to accelerate beneficiation.
And we're also here to educate people about not exploiting some of the products. You know, some people debark trees and do all sorts of things. So we work with these communities, traditional healers, and we're very pleased to have the San community represented here to talk to them about how to use these natural products responsibly, because we have to save them for future generations. So I think this is a great job creator. It's a great platform for innovation. It's a great platform to market products nationally and internationally after we ensure that the products are ethically sound, there are no risks in the utilization of the product, and we accredit the products to such a stage that even international markets will be able to acquire them.
Singh says Biopanza is a great initiative that will empower communities.
And I mean, if you look at the mineral wealth that we have in Africa that's being exported, and then we have to buy the product that comes back into our country, we need to accelerate beneficiation. We need to also accelerate natural diversity. And this is what we are promoting here today. And I think particularly for women and youth, there are great opportunities for them to get into these kinds of markets. There is no better knowledge than grandma's knowledge. And if our grandmas can continue inspiring the youngsters to get into fields of agriculture and bioscience and things like that, I think it will benefit us a lot. So this is something that as a department we're very proud of, promoting and supporting, and I think it will definitely add to dealing with the unemployment problems that we have in our country.
Speaking on the issue of the continent and working together, Deputy Minister Singh says it may be time for African businesses to work together in order to take their products outside the borders of the continent.
Well, I mentioned examples of other countries that are producing niche products, you know, like Kenya and other kind of niche products that are known nationwide, internationally. We really need now maybe to work together as Africa and see how we can create particular markets for those products. And I think we have the opportunity to work together. We have some African counterparts at this conference, but I'm going to suggest to my team that we broaden this kind of coming together so the whole of Africa can benefit, starting with SADC countries.
Diana Snyders, Director of the Sun Council of South Africa, is also part of the beneficiaries of the Biopanza. Snyders was there representing her community of Namakwa land in the Northern Cape province that produces the rooibos plant that is used for the popular rooibos tea. She has called on transformation of the industry.
I'm here today to tell everybody that the saying have changed. The industry must transform. Traditional knowledge holders must be heard and not just seen.
Snyder says the benefit-sharing agreements they signed on the rooibos plant has been met with mixed reactions, but are committed to making it work.
There is so much a lot about the rooibos benefit-sharing agreement. People are unhappy, some people are not happy, and we are extremely happy because we make it work. Yeah, it's not a one-size-fits-all whole benefit sharing agreement, people will be unhappy. But we, the traditional knowledge holders that have not been gaining from this brilliant resource, now will be part of that beneficiation of that benefit sharing agreement.
For Channel Africa News, I am Tutongo Beni in Johannesburg.
Good morning starts here. Rise and shine on Channel Africa, the African perspective.
And now it's that time on a Friday on Rise and Shine where we find out what's been happening in the world of the arts and lifestyle matters in this week. And our reporter, Ndoro, who brings us up to speed as she brings us the artsy beats.
Welcome to this week's African RT Beats exclusive to Channel Africa, the African perspective. I am Ndoro Mahlangu. In this week's segment, TikTok hosts the Level Up Africa Creator Day, and South Africa plays host to the 2025 Jazzwise Youth Music Business Workshop. Last Saturday, social media video platform TikTok hosted its third Creators Education Day in Johannesburg, bringing together a vibrant mix of emerging talent in the media. The initiative, known as TikTok Level Up Africa Creator Day, has become a vital platform for aspiring digital storytellers. The workshop focused on helping creators track their growth, build lasting connections, and understand their role in the wider creative economy. Content creator Keegan Gordon, known for giving out mystery gifts and shopping sprees online, was there.
Well, essentially it all started when I was in high school, and everyone would look at me and be like, why are you creating these videos? This was in 2018, so it wasn't really that cool to be making videos back then. I kind of didn't really see it as an opportunity, more for a love of making videos and just doing what I loved. I'm always a big advocate to do what you want in life and chase, I don't know, what your calling is and your dreams are. So it was almost like I did what I loved, and I was just at the right place at the right time, I guess, doing what I loved, and it just evolved to where it's at. And yeah, just super excited to see what the future holds.
And how has that journey been like?
In the beginning, it was very tough because there was no proof of concept, especially in South Africa, of people being on camera and making, I don't know, a success of themselves. Because, you have your parents and when you're in school and everyone's writing matric and studying, and you, the kid, not doing your work and focused on making videos, and all the teachers are telling you you're never going to be anything, you're wasting your life, you got such a good opportunity to study at school, and you're just chasing what you love, because none of the other stuff ever made sense to me. This has always made sense to me, to create awesome videos and try to help people.
And the money that you give away, is it your personal money? How does it work?
Initially, how it all started was I would work jobs. So I was a sports coach, a cricket coach, and I'd work a bunch of other jobs, and I'd always save up all my money. And yeah, when I started giving back, it was all my own money that I'd saved up and worked really hard for years, and I would give that all away. And just through doing that, the great impact I was obviously making on social media, brands would get involved due to the attention I was getting by doing what I was doing. So I'm very grateful for the brands that contribute to what I do, because they're the ones that make all of this possible, in a sense.
What sort of opportunities have come for you personally with what you do?
I guess the opportunities that come from the platforms that I've built is being able to help more and more people.
What do you make of this event that they've put together for content creators?
I think it's really awesome to make it for TikTok to be doing the things that they're doing, because it's making social media accessible to creators who want to learn about it, right? It's definitely a growing sort of industry, and I think for people who are interested in it to be able to make it a career path is beautiful.
On Wednesday, the 17th of September, the city of Johannesburg in South Africa played host to the 2025 Jazzwise Youth Music Business Workshop, an inspiring part of the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz Festival. The workshop brought together industry leaders, musicians, and creative experts to guide and empower the next generation of stars. From career building tips to insights on navigating the business side of music, young people got a rare chance to connect directly with those shaping the arts. Channel Africa's Lebogang Mabange caught up with brand specialist Nadine Eli at the event.
Let's talk about brand building, right? Why do you think branding is so important for young creatives?
I think it sobers a creative because creatives are more the vibes, you know, I want to be on TV, I want to be on radio. But then when they're done doing their performance, where's the EFT going to whose bank account, right? And then if I'm not booked for 3 months, how do I get money in? So I think the artist needs to make it important to align the business with their brand. So getting the minute things like their micro ecosystem together, their branding, their storytelling. How do I get B2B to buy me as a product in the market space beyond my voice?
And maybe if you can take us through the first step in building a strong personal brand.
Firstly, if your mom has to read about you, what would you want her to read about your life, right? And also helping us sell your brand and your story. So I think it's segmenting the market to who you want to speak to. So it could be your LSM, your geographical segmentation. How am I relevant in South Africa, but also at the same time in Australia, without getting my brand confused? And also that will determine who am I collaborating with, because it might not align with my brand. So what's important is how do I see myself in a micro ecosystem, macro ecosystem, which has to do with collaboration, and in the market ecosystem. When I bring in brand sponsorships, how do they get ROI from me?
Social media is growing now. Everyone is on social media, right? So how can artists use that social media to grow their brand?
Well, that depends on your segmentation. Because remember, social media only amplifies what's existing, you know? So it can help you to get collaborations, diversify your portfolio, but at the same time, it also puts you in a vulnerable space to answer questions on a comment where people can't just phone you. They can skip your manager. They can now get you in a comment section. And sometimes it's really not nice comments, right? So are you then ready to be that vulnerable and at the same time back your brand? And then you can bring in the PR liaison and everything to make it sound nice. But I think as much as it amplifies it, it makes you more accessible. But with accessibility comes vulnerability at the same time.
That's it from this week's African RT Beats. Until next Friday, for Channel Africa, I am Ntlandla Mahlangu in Johannesburg.
From Cape to Cairo, Dakar to Dar es Salaam, rise and shine with Peter Ndoro and Asanda Beda on Channel Africa.
Right, it's time to find out what's on the move. Coming up after the 9 o'clock news with Palisa and Benjamin. And you look very Friday today.
Thank you. As I would on a Friday, of course.
Even the hair today is different.
Exactly.
Thank you, girls. Well, we're going to have a lot of fun once again today, Friday. Once I stop blushing and actually go into speaking about it. You know, if you're anything like me, I love live music. And I love to go and watch, you know, my favorite artists perform. It gives you that intimate exchange, right, in that moment. But we focus so much on the artists themselves. And there's so many people on the stage with that particular artist. So someone who is no stranger to the stage themselves, Mama Yvonne Chaka Chaka, she is going to be joining us on the line in the first hour of the show as the founder of the Backing Vocalist and Session Musicians Awards.
Oh,
fantastic.
Nice. It was about time they get recognition.
It is
right?
about
Brilliant.
time
Yeah,
because
that's a
there
great time.
is no performance without all of them.
And you know, a lot of these backing singers end up being stars in their own right.
Absolutely.
But they started as backing singers.
So many of our favorite artists
yeah,
themselves started as backing vocalists or even session musicians because, I mean, there's the guitarist, there's the pianist, there's so much going on that stage, and those people also deserve to be recognized for their hard work.
One that you may not know Luther Vandross used to
Yes,
be
he
a
was-
backing singer in
he
his
was.
day.
Imagine.
Hey, it's fantastic. That is amazing. But it takes somebody like Yvonne, I think, who
Yeah.
appreciates
Yes.
the value that these backing singers
Yeah.
bring.
Because she's seen the
Yeah,
value in
yeah,
her work
yeah,
throughout the decades,
absolutely.
right? And then we have a special guest in our studio
Yeah.
in today's final hour, none other than Judith Sipuma.
Oh, wow. You've got the
You
best
guys
show
have the
I
today.
know.
eh? Oh, my goodness.
That's
wow.
awesome.
That's
and I
gonna be
haven't heard her
incredible.
in a while. Hey, was she taking a break from interviews for a bit? Or
Perhaps, but she's actually
She
back
couldn't say
in
no
full
to
swing.
Palesa.
She's about to, of course she can't. She's about to release a brand new album in October. And just last week, she released a brand new single as well. So we're just
Wow.
going to hear that one as well.
I'm
Literally
so
last week,
excited
Friday,
to
she
hear
released a
about
new
that.
single. So that's going to
Oh.
be great news. In the second hour of the show, we're going to be reflecting on a little bit of our heritage. We know in South Africa it's Heritage Month, but we're looking at it on a continental level. We're speaking to a researcher and consultant who's mobilizing people within, who's wrote, what was the word? Mobilizing. I said it and then I forgot it.
It sounds very
Who's
political.
mobilizing the Basotho people to try and return the belongings of King Moshweshwe I from British museums. And so we're going to speak a little bit about Leeto Leo, meaning,
Wow.
that particular journey.
nice.
So you
Great
know what
show.
you've got me doing? Fly away with me.
Don't despair. The world is full of
Child, this child
joy.
can sing. Yo,
You
we've got
cry,
a
you
discovery
smile,
here.
and you dance.
We gotta go, sadly.
All right, and that's how we come to the end of Rise and Shine. Catch us on Monday, 6 till 9, and thank you so much for tuning in. And of course, stay with Channel Africa as On the Move is up next. It's time to say goodbye now, hey? My name is Asanda Beda, so bye-bye, everybody.
And I'm Peter Ndoro. Have an amazing weekend, everybody. We'll see you next week, bright and early, 6 o'clock. I nearly said 6:30. I don't know why. 6 o'clock. Stay with us, though. Coming up shortly, Judith Supuma, Yvonne Chaka Chaka,
Yeah.
Palesa, and Benjamin. My goodness. The news is next. Here's Jwalane Tulongwete.
We are on Open Views Audio Bouquet. Channel 628.